Bam, we're live. I'm good.
I got the shirt on for you.
It's so cool. I watched it with your interview last night with what's the gentleman's name? He owns the supplement company, the young kid who's having the baby, Nick Bear.
Nick. Yeah, Nick Bear. Yeah, he just they just had the baby, man, like 2 days ago, something like that. So I made sure I sent him a message. What a good young guy. What a stud, man.
Yeah, how old is that dude?
I think he's 30, like 31.
It was it's a that was that interview that interview really tripped me out in a way that I didn't expect. It forced me to like reflect on myself a lot, on my age a lot.
And what? Oh, okay. Why? Because the
He's
parents
so
are
young and so successful. He's
41.
so say it again.
Mhm.
Say it again.
I was gonna say, is it because of the parent stuff or because he's a stud and he's 31 and he's already crushing it?
Yeah, there's a combination of so you want your life experiences to help you move forward, but you don't want them to jade you, right? So you
Right.
meet 10 dishonest people, but you don't, that 11th person you meet, and we all know those people that are like my dad can't stand real estate agents and lawyers and just anyone who makes money off of their what's that called? Like their sales, right? Don't trust a lawyer. He wants it to go to court so he can charge more money so he can do this. Don't trust a real estate agent. He's going to tell you love the house. Like my dad is jaded like that, right? I don't
Yeah.
ever want to have that. Every real estate agent I meet, I want to just treat them like a human being.
Yeah,
But
for
but
sure.
but this guy has some genuine naive is going to come across negative because it's not naive. He's a
It's
super powerful seedling. He like there's some weak seedlings out there. The seedling for the sunflower plant is not a weak seedling. Before the flower comes out, that's a fucking plant.
Yeah, that's a monster. No, you know what
Yeah,
he is?
that guy's already a monster and he hasn't even flowered yet. He's still like a
He is-
little kid, but he's already a monster. I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's already monster. You know what it is for him, man? The more
Yeah.
that I sat and talked with him, it is a genuine curiosity, right? It's a
Okay.
curiosity. It's a curiosity, and it's a kind of a wonder around the world. You know, he just looks at everything of like, oh man, this is going to be. I'm so curious of what this is going to be like, and I know it's going to be amazing, but I'm so curious in what ways that comes into fruition. You know, he was looking at his company and kind of like, what are the next stages of my company? And he was like genuinely curious and kind of wondering, like, man, I'm sure it's going to be amazing, but what do I do with it? Like, what is the next stage? He was looking at that from in terms of his marriage, in terms of his, becoming a father. He just had that genuine curiosity about him, man. And yeah, just such a good guy, so smart, so accomplished, a physical freaking, just a savage.
I started following him after I watched it, and yeah, this morning he woke up, or I don't know when he actually did it, but the post was he woke up and ran 20 miles. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh
Yeah,
god.
and he's huge, dude, and he's a beast. The dude's got size on him too. He's strong as an ox, right? And he's out there running, so he's breaking a bunch of stereotypes that way too. So yeah, it was cool, man. I was glad I was out there. It worked out perfect. I was out in Texas to do some things and worked out perfect, and was honored to be able to go by and chat with him. So yeah, Nick Bear, man, he's a stud. So if people don't know about him, they should. So if people don't
Th-
know about you, they should too, man. I'm always pumped to talk to you. It's always
Thank
fun.
you. Beaudreau.
Maybe. Yeah, I
How
don't.
do you say it? How do you say it? I know we talked about it in the last podcast.
Yeah, we California'd it up. So I always grew up saying Beaudreau, but if it
Beaudreau.
might
Okay.
be. So like I said, whenever I speak out of country, if they speak French there, they say it way cooler. And I just anybody's even close, man. I just nod my head.
I want to. Well, first, those of you who haven't heard before, I've had Matt on the show before. You should go back and listen to it. In summation, and this is just the quick and dirty. Matt lived a very full life as a young man, searching for himself and putting himself in ways that would allow him to find himself through one of my favorite sports, MMA. And he was always an entrepreneur and a go-getter, and he had the honor and deserved, I don't know if this is a word, deservitude, I was to get around a lot of strong, powerful go-getters, also a lot of celebrity fighters. And then he reincarnated himself as as a man of service. And it's interesting. I think a lot of people, some people want to be friends with, like it'd be cool to be friends with Kim Kardashian because she's so hot and she goes to rap parties and she got like great big old titties, and Kanye looks like he'd be fun to meet, and just like it would be interesting. And it would be cool to be friends with, maybe LeBron so that like you could get courtside seats. The people who want to be friends with Matt want to be friends with Matt because of what he's giving to planet Earth and what he's giving to children.
Thanks,
that
man.
you won't know a lot of people like that.
Thank you.
You want to be friends with this dude because you want to support what he's doing. You're not, even if you love Kim, you're not really interested in like supporting what she's doing, or even if you love LeBron, you're not interested in supporting what they're doing. The people who get behind Matt want to stand behind him and push him. They want to give to him.
I appreciate that.
Like if I go to Kim's house, I want to take from her. I want to take some pictures of her. I want to like hug her and squeeze her inappropriately tight. LeBron, I want to like put on his shoes and like touch his hands and see how small my hands are. I don't want to do that to Matt. I don't want to take anything from him. I want to participate. He's a pond that you throw a penny in and make a wish, and you make the wish for him, not for you. I mean, you are a fucking good human being.
Dude, I don't have as much to give as those other guys in those different ways. So if people want to give this way and come this direction, it's they usually are relating to the mission. They're relating to
the mission.
It's the mission of building up these strong young kids. So it's so I get to automatically partner with amazing people. People like yourself who understand the mission, who are living that with your own. Maybe you're not building schools, so you're raising 3 human beings. Like that is a mission. And you're intentional about the way you do that, and I just know far too many people that are doing that. So, I mean, I think the same kind of things could be said to you. And I think anybody I get to partner with, that's a mission. And what's so cool, man, is that there are so many good people that are on board with this. They're really, I mean, we're in the age of division, we're in the age of everybody find the enemy. And man, I get wrapped up into it too, because I'm like, fuck this and this system. And I get very much wrapped into that too. But I always try to rein myself back in and go, look, man, I got a finite amount of energy, and I can either be pissed about this or I can build something better over here. And whether that's building my kids, my family, my schools, my programs, my whatever it is to pour into these young guys, I got to try to redirect that. But there's a lot of good people involved in that mission, man.
If I looked at your taxes, or your business portfolio, how many schools do you own?
Yeah. So
are you responsible for?
So yeah, those are 2 different questions. So I was
okay.
Yeah. So I was the physical owner of 3 that I have since transferred license to the employees and a former business partner.
So when I talked to you last time, you had 3 schools, K through 12, these Acton academies
that I specifically own. Exactly.
Yeah.
What I've done is taken on a role of responsibility for about 300. And so
does that have a title? Can you give me a title for that?
Not really. I mean, really, no, because it's more out of service. It's more of like a chief, evangelist, recruiter, whatever you want to call it. So I help, about 300 owners around the world running their specific schools in this network. And then I spend a lot of my days I'll talk to 4 or 5 people a day around the world who are interested in doing the same thing for their communities, interested in doing the same thing for their kids. And, we'll jump on a Zoom call for an hour and just go, okay, man, here's what you got to do. Here's how it starts. Here's how you do it effectively. Here's how you create, sustainability. Here's how you really trying to help as many good people as I can. Again, get on board with the mission, right? If we can get more and more of these, then we can start to actually shift all those things that I want to tend to be like, okay, school, clearly there's issues and there's agendas. And yes, all this stuff. And I want to point that out because I want people to see it, but I want to spend more time going, and solution looks like this, right? Solutions over here. And if I can get more and more people over here, it was just like the CrossFit explosion, right? It's like, look, here's a solution. Here's something else right here. And if we can create a whole bunch of people, dude, getting behind this and blowing this up, well, then everybody over here has to at least notice. Like, I got to at least see it, right? So we're doing the same thing. So that's what I spend my days. I spend my days doing that and then running the other programs that I get to run for young people outside of just the schools.
And one of those would be like the Apogee program.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, Apogee strong.
Separate,
Tim,
separate from Acton. That's separate from Acton Academy.
it is. Yeah. So Tim, most people listening will know Tim Kennedy more than they'll know who I am for good reason. And Tim and I are friends and partners on this, and we were he beat my ass in a workout about a year and a half ago. We were working out in Texas, and he just crushed me, and had a couple of his buddies there, and just a bunch of savages. And then we got done. We went over to a coffee shop and we were hanging out, and we were talking through what this could look like. So we kind of went two directions. One, I helped him open the school, the physical campus that he now has out there in Cedar Park, Texas. And then the other part was the development of Apogee Strong, which is good men pouring into young men. And it's a year-long program for young guys. So we got young men, like 13 to 19, 20 years old, all over the world involved in this program. It's freaking awesome.
These 300 schools, do they all fall under the Acton Academy flag? They're Acton
Yep.
Academies.
Yep. Yes, they are.
And you said around the world, there's some outside the United States?
26 countries now, man.
Wow, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks, man. We're in 41 states, I think, and 26 countries. I have to go back and double check, but I think that's right about where it's at. So yeah, it's pretty freaking cool.
The method in which you, and I'm purposely not using the word curriculum because we talked about that last show.
Yeah.
The method in which you you may have to help me here.
Engage.
This is the first 500. Oh yeah, good. Engage. There's 500 shows. I've never been at a loss for words. The method in which you engage with these children. Is there a book that I could read and it'll be like, oh yes, that's Rudolf Steiner's way of engaging with kids, or is there? What's the principles of how you engage with the kids?
Yeah, I mean, so the
I just made that up, that guy, because I know he has the Waldorf schools, right? So I just made him up.
Steiner was rad. Steiner is rad, and there are Waldorf elements. You could read A.S. Neal's Summerhill, right? You could read Peter Gray's. What is Peter Gray's? Free to Learn is phenomenal. Anything by John Taylor Gatto, Gatto, is phenomenal. Seth Godin's Stop Stealing Dreams.
I watched that last night. I watched his TED Talk last night after I heard you talk about it.
Oh God, I love him, man. Seth is a freaking great dude. His books, all of those, Maria Montessori, like all of those will give you a bit of insight. But there is a book called Courage to Grow that is really that dives deep kind of into our day-to-day at Acton. It is Acton specifics, because there's elements of all of those pioneers that are in the program. Ultimately we want that freedom and that responsibility to be 100% on the heroes. We want it to be where the adults truly can be irrelevant, not have to be there at all, and have those young heroes just rocking and rolling. So Courage to Grow is the best book for it.
I'm looking on Amazon. Laura Sandifer.
Correct.
How Acton Academy turns learning upside down.
Yes, sir. That's the one. That's the go-to book, and it's quick read, inspirational read. Never met anybody that said, "Oh, okay, well that was fine." Yeah, that's the one, man. It's phenomenal.
Is this lady alive?
Yes, she is. She and her husband Jeff are two of, and I would say, they're two of my favorite people. I would say Jeff is one of the greatest educators, pure DNA educator, to ever walk the face of the planet. When we start talking about people like Gatto, and you start talking about people like, Steiner and Montessori, and you start talking about some of these legends like that, Jeff is in that category.
What's an educator?
So I always differentiate between teachers and educators, and I think people can learn to teach, and you can learn to be. You can be a mentor. I think mentors are usually a master in a certain area. I think of it like martial arts, right? And you can be a master in a certain area, and you can mentor somebody into that specific level of mastery. But I think teachers, and God bless teachers, man. I love good humans that are good teachers are important, and I support them. I support them greatly. But just based on my own experience of becoming a teacher, especially in public schools, you can pretty much train anybody to be a teacher, right? Because it's more about following a system, and you're just parroting the prescription, somewhat. I think an educator, to me, is a DNA thing. I don't think you can teach anybody how to be an educator. I think it is a combination of an inherent belief in humanity. I think you have to have that love, a genuine love for humans. You actually have to believe that they are an amazing species, that genius is the default setting. I think you have to truly believe that. And then you have to get your own ego out of the way in order to understand that your job, and it's easier for an educator to do this, your job is to open doors. Your job is to lift eyes to the horizon. Your job is to make yourself irrelevant as soon as you can, and help this young genius, on this kind of journey. And it sounds very esoteric and mumbo jumbo, but the way it really plays out is you believe in them, you expose them to an experience, you ask them their thoughts, their questions, you push back on that and allow them to think through things. And you're not busy, pounding your ideas into them. You're busy cultivating an environment around them, so they're going to come to their own conclusions. And Jeff does that naturally and masterfully. I don't know anybody that does, especially when you start talking about, taking like a Socratic conversation, or the concept of Socratic, where you're asking why, and he's so good at going, would you rather, choice A or choice B? And he doesn't let you choose in the middle. It's no, choice A or choice B if you had to choose one. And then what do you mean by that? And he's able to question you with such simplicity that your thoughts become inherently more complex. And that's a genius level thing, right? He doesn't ask you complex questions, so where your answers are just kind of these, yes or no kind of things. He asks you the most simple questions that allow you to really go through your own thoughts. And it's a skill that I don't know anybody that has it to the level that he does. So yeah, huge fan, obviously.
Do they have kids? Do those two have kids?
Mm-hmm, they do. Yeah, they've got a couple studs. Jeff has he has a daughter who's a brilliant human from a previous marriage. And then he and Laura have two young men, Sam and Charlie. They're somewhere around, I want to say like 18 and 19, or 19 and 20. They're somewhere around that. And both, following after the parents' footsteps. Stellar young men, way smarter than I am, way more handsome, way more. I mean, they're just they're awesome.
When I was raised, in the abortion issue came up, it was all about, it was presented to me as a kid, very, I'm going to use the word one-sided, but even presenting it like that is one-sided. I want to be more open than that. But it was presented to me as this is a women's rights issue. And that if you don't believe in allowing women to get abortions, then you're against women's rights. And that was put into me just forever and ever and ever.
Right.
And I use this subject because it is so charged. But if I were to, when I bring it up to my kids, I will bring it up like that. Then I will also bring it up to, what about the baby's rights? And then I will also bring it up, is this even the right question to ask? Like like, remember, I'm posing it to you as either, is it the baby's rights, or is it the woman's rights? Or maybe that's not even the question to ask.
Right.
And we're presented these, but as a child, until I was like, I know this sounds so naive on my part, but until I was into my maybe 40s, I'm 50 now, it was never even mentioned that, what about the killing of the baby, in the circles that I ran in? Never once. Mm-hmm. Like never, no one's ever, it's not like it's 20 people sitting around with pickets in my group being like, I can't believe they're against women's rights. No one was like, what about the baby being killed? Sure. Like no one ever.
Sure.
It was just attack. It was just attack anyone who said that. And I'm still pro-choice. Yeah. But I side with all the law. No, sorry. I'm still pro-choice person, I guess. But I side with all the logic that's on the pro-life side.
Right. And that's
And I don't want to take that away from I want my child to be able to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting thing that I heard you talk about with Nick Bear about the other day. My son goes, hey, I want to know. He caught some lizards in the backyard, and he brought them in the house. We have them in a little cage with a light, and we've been buying crickets for him. He goes, hey, they had dried worms at the store. Can you ask your computer if our lizards eat dry worms? And after listening to what you said, I'm like, oh, this fucking computer will never say I don't know. I could ask it what happens after I die. It'll tell me. I can ask it where I was before I was born. That computer's only answers. I can do something that computer can't do. I can say I don't know, and I can drift into the unknown. In my opinion, is where all the power is.
That's exactly where all the power is. That's where the experience is. That's where the learning is. That's where it's our ability.
I was never allowed to be in the unknown because an ideology was pumped onto me. It's women's rights. I was never allowed to be like, hey, or no one asked me a question. I was told.
That's right. And what are the nuances around that? That's right. We take, and we tend to do that as parents. We do that from, systemic overviews. We do, because you had the ideology, put it like, hey, pro-choice or you're a sack of shit, right? Like it's just,
defend women or else you're a piece of shit. It's all about the women. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got people on the other side who are like, look, it's all about the baby, screw the lady.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's the ideology they tell their kids. It's all about the baby, screw the lady. I don't care because the lady clearly put herself in the situation. Right. And so you've got both sides. And then what happens there? Neither side wants to actually have a conversation. And so you inherently have division. So you inherently have a whole group of people that the reality is you probably agree on 85, 90%. You probably agree on so much. You'd probably be able to come together on so many things. You'd probably be able to make friendships. You'd probably be able to do some really cool things together and have some meeting of the minds, but you were introduced via I oppose you, you oppose me, we're enemies on this, boom. And so then there's an immediate disconnect. And that is the story that's spun, especially in media now. And it's just continuously about that division versus, okay, we're going to disagree on this. We're going to disagree, on this specific topic. Let's talk about it. What are the nuances here? Are there some places where we do agree? Maybe both sides agree, on the abortion issue. Maybe we actually agree on some of the nuances, some of the like unique one-offs, maybe we can find some common ground here. And at the end of the day, if we can't find some common ground on this, maybe we can still find some common ground other places and not look at each other as enemies. We just look at each other as two people who disagree on this specific thing. And those are the conversations. That's it. You want to have that. And you got to realize when you're having those with your young person too, and you saying you don't know, and they're saying maybe they don't know, or they have a specific opinion and they're 15, they're 18, that opinion could also change.
Yeah. Yeah.
That opinion might change, right? That's part of
growth. You might not even be thinking about it right. You might not even be thinking about it right. Yep. Because as you get eventually, so here's like to give an example of that precedent. So what you might be thinking it's about kill the baby or kill the mom, and then someone could be like, well, or kill the baby or mom's rights, and then someone could be like, hey, how can you kill a baby, Sevan? And then my response is, well, there's another issue. What's that, Sevan? Precedent. What's precedent? Precedent is if we allow society to tell women what they can and can't do with their body, what's that lead to? What are the implications of that? So actually it has nothing to do with whether it's killing, and just giving someone a whole nother way to think about it. And I don't mean superficial ways. The superficial ways that go down rabbit holes are what, and I'm okay with this kind of talk, but it doesn't lead to an end. When is it actually a life? This kind of stuff where you're going down a rabbit hole instead of going bigger picture, going more enlightened, going wiser. And it's
that's the point though, is it's all worth exploring.
Right.
All of that is nuance worth exploring, right? Because when does it become a life? That inherently speaks. If you're, the way Ben Shapiro describes it, is he's talking about, this eventually, if left alone, becomes this sentient being. And so if that is the precedent, that we are setting, then immediately upon, conception, we are good to go. That is going to be a sentient being, if sentient being, if left alone. So then maybe we should leave that alone. And people all know that's not the case. Then he argues that, okay, well, if somebody's in a coma and we don't know if they're going to come out, can we stab them? Can we kill them? And I think all of these, whether you like Ben Shapiro or not, whether you're the point is, listen and relax.
Listen, yeah.
And understand, at the end of the day, you will find something you disagree on with pretty much every other human on the planet. So then what? Are you going to let it ruin your day? Are you going to let it ruin your life? Are you going to let it ruin all of your relationships? Or are you going to look for ways to keep yourself emotionally in check, be able to have civil discourse, be able to change your mind if better evidence gets presented, be able to push for what you believe?
Or change yourself, become wiser yourself, right?
That's it, man. That's it. And I will always push hard for what I believe, but I promise you I will change my mind if new evidence is presented. And I promise I'll push hard while understanding that somebody else is coming at it from a different perspective, in a different life phase, with different background. And I'm not going to get emotionally attached to them disagreeing with me. And I'm not going to take it and go, well, then you're a piece of shit and you and I can't hang out. Like, that's a shitty way to live, period. And again, I think any good educator, circling back to somebody like Jeff, whatever, I think that's what they actually want, right? And that's the definition of freedom, is that I'm free in all of the ways that people are not, because I think that way and because I keep my emotions in check. And I'm free because I allow them to be free, including freely disagree with me and freely, do something else, as long as you're not harming somebody else. So I don't know. It's a big philosophical freaking mumbo jumbo, man. But I think it's worth, especially when it comes to our kids, I think it's worth considering where are shortcomings in that. And I try to be as aware of that as I can and realize when I screw that up, and especially around my kids.
Recently we had a dude in the CrossFit community, Pop, and for taking some sort of drug he's not allowed to take while competing. The implications are, or maybe it's not even implications, but it's cheating. Like you can't eat bananas before the competition, or else it's cheating. Right. So he took some drugs, and I had him on the show, and I said, "What did your mom say?" And my mom and dad said, I'm paraphrasing, but "Hey, dipshit, why'd you do that?" And I go, "Hey, can I share something with you?" And he goes, "What?" I go, "I want to tell you something about your parents." He goes, "What?" I go, "They seem like they're mad at you, but they're mad at themselves." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "They wish that they would have had the relationship with you, that you would have come and asked them first." Mm-hmm. And when I was in college and I wanted to take MDMA, I bought a book on MDMA and I went to my mom with it and I read it. And I'm like, "Mom, I want to take this shit." Like, I went to my mom. I just realized that now talking to you. I went to my mom. That's how open. That's how I could talk to my mom about anything.
That's awesome.
And I heard you say that recently about not only your kids, but your wife.
That's right.
You said in an interview, "I want to be there so that my wife and my kids can talk to me about anything."
That's
and
right.
I pride myself on being able to go anywhere in my brain. Like if someone wants to sit me down and convince me that I'm a homosexual, I'm totally open to it. Let's talk.
Yeah.
The only conversation I can ever remember shutting down was someone tried to convince me that what Jeffrey Epstein was okay. What he did was okay. And that those 15-year-old girls were going to have a worse life without him. And I go, "Hey, dude, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not participating in this." That's in my 50 years. That's the only conversation I can ever remember. But there's people all around me who don't want to talk about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't want to talk about Trump. I don't want to talk about Biden. I don't want to talk about anything. And I'm like, dude, these are why? This is so fun.
Yeah. And don't talk about religion. Don't talk about politics, right? It's rude. It's rude. It's rude. Well, it created a whole culture that can't talk about religion and can't talk about politics. That's what it created. It created a whole bunch of people that can't do that. And if we start to do it again, it's the automatic division. It's the automatic emotional breakdown. No, I would tend to agree with you. I think, if somebody is attempting a conversation that just immediately backs up to my values and my value systems, we're not going to have conversations around why pedophilia is okay. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Right.
I'm okay with that. If someone's like, "Hey, you're a closed-minded asshole," I still will own that. The same way I own that my iPhone might be made by child labor in China. I get it. I'm guilty.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But if it's something worth discussing with somebody worth discussing it, I also will, just by nature of time and trying to protect my time, my life is built around the woman and the children that live on this ranch with me. And like, they are the priority. So if, Sally Pants 42 on Instagram wants to get into a philosophical, debate around something that I think is just asinine, I may not engage there just because I'm not going to take the time, because I don't know who she is or who he is, or if it's a freaking bot or whatever. But if it is a conversation worth exploring that's not backing up against our values, our kind of family set of rules and values, and who we're going to be, I'm all for exploring the conversation, man. And I'm all for being okay with changing my mind or agreeing to disagree. But, like I said, at the end of the day, my wife and my 3 kids, I want to be the number one person they go to for anything. I want them to feel comfortable. I'm not saying they have to come to me first with everything, just saying I want them to know they can, if they want to, that they don't feel uncomfortable doing so. I want them to know that can be stop number one, should they want to make it.
How do you keep that door open?
Oh man, it's like anything else. It's like fitness, right? How do you stay in shape? You keep working out, right? You keep eating the right food. I don't think there's any I don't think there's any secrets. I don't think there's any hacks. I think it is the transparent communication all day, every day, as much as I can, go into each day and be conscientious around maintaining my, emotional control, maintaining the transparency and communication, maintaining intentional communication, having conversations with them every day. And it's not the surface level stuff. It's just, as soon as they show wonder in something, or as soon as they show curiosity about something, I'm going to explore that as long as they'll go, man. Well, what do you think about that? Why are you what brought that to your mind? Like, cool, man. Well, what do you want to know? Like, what, I just want to explore those things as much as possible. Right. And so if we live in this life where it's consistently like that, then it's just normalized, right? I always tell parents, you normalize what you normalize. If it is the normal thing from day one that you guys have really interesting conversations around interesting topics and nothing is off limits, as soon as they're curious about something, it's not, you're too young. We'll talk about that later. You're not shutting them down. You just make it a habit where they do, because they're coming to you when they're 2, they're 3, they're 4, they're coming to you. If you just maintain that and you never get weird about it, you never make them feel weird for asking, it becomes normal. It can be harder with a spouse, I think, to, potentially break those whatever chains and barriers they have from their upbringing or previous relationships. And I had to do the same thing myself and work on that because we weren't a very open household, growing up. So I had to be intentional about that too. And as the husband, I think I should try to lead that. And I have. And so that's been a work in progress too. But, now we're 17 years in, man. And it's pretty good.
What did your wife do?
She takes care of the ranch.
She does.
She does, man. So she is a farmer. She is a farmer girl at heart. We were very intentional when we first had our very first child, man. When we said, all right, look, if we can do this where you can stay home throughout these formative years for however many kids we have, we'd like you to be able to do it. And that was a struggle financially for a while, but we made it happen, man. So she stayed home. And so now that the kids are in this, kind of life stage where they are really, really, self-sufficient sounds kind of gives the wrong context, but it kind of doesn't too. They're really freaking self-sufficient. So since they're out just kind of kicking ass every day and my wife doesn't need to be right there with them, we bought a ranch here in February, and she is running the ranch. We provide food to local restaurants, and she's running that whole business. So she just tells me when I got to come, lift something or kill something or fix something or, so she's running the show, man. And my kids are running it with her.
Where's the ranch?
We're in the mountains of North Carolina.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that why you had to part ways with not part ways, but change your role with the 3 schools in Sacramento?
With those 3 campuses, yeah, because those camps, they don't need me to run. They are running, and truly, those 3 campuses, the adults that work there are phenomenal human beings. But even greater, the young heroes that are there and those families are amazing, and they are running more and more. The kids are running more and more of those campuses every day. It got to the point where really my days on campus, I was working in the same capacity I am now. I was working with the other owners around the world. I was spending my time there because on campus they didn't need me, which is great. That's ideally what you want, right? You want, as a parent, you want your young men to grow up and not need to. They want a relationship with you, and that's great. But you don't want them to need you. You don't want them to be 40 years old, depending on you financially, living in your basement. Like, you want them to be self-sufficient human beings, and then you just have a relationship. Well, that's where I got with those campuses, self-sufficient. And so that's great. So yeah, we're out here.
How old are your kids?
11, 9, and 6.
And how are they with the move?
Dude, I have an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and 6-year-old adults.
Wow.
And I always say, I know so many, 12-year-old adults, 14-year-old adults, 16-year-old adults, and I know a lot of 40-year-old children and 45-year-old children and 50-year-old children. They are very much adults in every sense of the word. It was not even, it was, again, very open conversation. Look, man, here's this ranch. Check this out. I think this could be an amazing opportunity, but what do you guys think? And quite honestly, if they had all looked at it and broken down and been like, oh my, then we would have maybe thought something different. But they were like, that's awesome. This could be great. Like, this is a great opportunity. We would love to try this. It was automatically, there was their curiosity. We'd love to figure out, we'd love to learn how to raise those animals and those animals and those animals, and to sell those animals, and then to, grow these kind of things in the garden, and to, like, that sounds great, Dad, let's roll, And so, I mean, it was, there's been no, transitional issues at all. They don't look at it like, that's another thing about their maturity, is that, do they have friends in California? Of course. Do they miss their friends? Of course. They also have friends who aren't just 11, 9, and 6. They have friends who are 17. They have friends who are 28. They have friends who are 39. They don't look at themselves as that. They understand the difference between being a kid and adult, but they go, look, this is somebody I have a relationship with here. And so they know when they're here that they're going to make friends of all ages. They don't have that weird age separation thing.
It's amazing. It's amazing you did that. When I moved, I used to live in Berkeley, and I moved to Santa Cruz, which is about 70 miles down the road. And I lost something in Berkeley that I didn't even think about. I lost my friends. And by lost my friends, I mean, I'll give you just one example. There was a guy that I rode 20 miles with every Saturday.
Okay.
We just rode bicycles.
Yeah.
Hard ass ride. Every Saturday we hooked up and we rode 20 miles. We came down the hill. We stopped at the beer garden. We had a beer.
Yeah.
And that's gone. And when I moved here 5 years ago, I haven't been on a bicycle since.
Interesting. How does that is it like you miss it? Do you feel like you substituted something else? Has it not been a big deal?
I'm not a miss person. I don't miss things, but there's a value there that's like, what value would I put on that? I don't know, $20 million.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was Cass's last name? Cass Golden. Yeah. Okay. Just some dude I fucking met in my neighborhood. And for, 2 years straight, every Saturday we rode 20 miles. Yeah. I never like, that's never going to happen again, but it came and went. And so there were 30 of those things that were worth fucking $100 million each that I cannot replace here.
For sure. But think about this. You got new things that you're going to do there, though, too, right?
Yes.
So if you're looking at it, you said 30 things that are worth, fucking $1 million a piece. Well, that's great, man. And you can always stick with that $30 million right there, or you can come over here. You still have those $1 million experiences over here, and then you get 30 new $1 million experiences over here, too. So I don't think, again, there are certain. So, I'm with you. You can.
And I have stuff here that, like, I never had there, of course. And I'm trying to take advantage of those things. So I'm like right down the street from the beach. So make sure I'm just using the shit out of that. But with kids, it's even more different because my kid has this. So the other day I was in Newport Beach and someone said, hey, I'll let you live in this house for as long as you want with your family. It's a $6 million home sitting on the beach. Yours free. And the first thing I thought, Matt, was I don't want to take my kids away from their tennis coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the first fucking thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
Their tennis coach is cool as shit. He's strict as
Yeah.
shit.
Then that has more value for you. You know, I don't
Right.
think that nuance, right? I don't think that
Yeah.
they're the
But
right
I
or
would
the
have never, it's just interesting. I would have never thought of those things. And you picked up your family and you went to North Carolina. When you do that, do you weigh those things? I feel like before I had kids, I would have never known to weigh those things. Like, fuck it, it's my life. Who cares?
yeah.
But now that I have kids, there's like, right? Because you had a network of people. You had the person who
Yes.
trained. Your kids had their jujitsu academy, right? They had the person that they every Saturday that they did this with, and they had these friends, and those things are fucking hard to cultivate.
Yeah. Yep.
People you trust, right?
Totally.
All of a sudden, one day you leave your kids with someone, and while you're at the store, you're like, "Oh my god, I've never left my kids with someone. I must really like this person." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It is. It's a big. It is. It's a big leap. And we're not. We're very intentional in the way we live, and we're very intentional about the things that we do. So it was not a fly by the seat of our pants. Like once I saw the farm, once I saw the property, saw that it was available, I was pretty quick to get on a plane to come check it out. Just to see, I wanted to physically see, I wanted to see the area, I wanted to explore it, I wanted to see if it was everything that I thought it was going to be as far as the physical, obviously the physical structure of it, and the pictures are doing it justice. I wanted to see all that stuff. But then when I came back, I mean, we weighed out all of that. It's okay. It's not just the act of moving over here. It is, what are we leaving behind? What are we going to? Why are we going to this? Like, what is the big picture? And what is the kind of 5 years out? What do we think things are going to look like? What do we want to do in terms of, again, cultivating new relationships? How does that look? And I'm fortunate enough, especially within speaking and all the networks that I've gotten to create, I know somebody everywhere. So I know people here. It's not like I didn't have people here that I don't think there's any state that I could move to where I don't know somebody, which is, again, I'm very fortunate to have had that experience. So, we knew some people here too. And, but we were very intentional. It was very much a planned deal. And again, we went to the kids and said, look, here's kind of what we're thinking. Is there anything we're missing? So it just made sense all around, man. And I don't regret a single moment of it. I love everybody still back there. I still stay in contact with anybody. Of course, some people are always going to get pissed if you do it. People probably got pissed that you left Berkeley.
Yeah.
There was probably somebody that was mad about that. Right. So of course there were some people that were angry that,
the beer garden where I spent all my money for sure was mad.
For sure they were. Yeah. 100%. So of course you got some people that are upset too, but that's okay. I understand. And again, that's their perspective. I'm not holding it against them. This was a good move for us, a needed move.
Did you keep your house in California?
We did not. Nope. We ended up selling that. We were going to. We were kind of kicking stuff around back and forth, but no, we ended up selling that. Which California prices are just, are stupid anyways. And so,
was that hard? I know this is off subject a little bit, but was that the thought? I'm so attached to homes. They're so hard to get. And so whenever I get one, I'm just like, I'm holding on to this motherfucker. Like I even asked my wife when I lost my job, I'm like, hey, I don't want to sell any of our homes. Can we live in a van with our kids? She's like, sure.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah. I get it.
Like I do not want to lose a home. Was that hard?
I think because I have moved so many times, I've deconditioned myself, because I get that. I fully get it, and I still, even when I'm back, so I grew up in Vacaville, right? So not,
beautiful
not all that
spot.
far. Yeah, not all that far from me, right? And so, and I'm barely ever there. And there was a period of time where it was probably close to 2 decades that I hadn't been there, but I got to go speak there this last year for an initiative around young people. And it was really cool to go back, and hadn't been there forever. And I absolutely drove by the couple of houses that I lived in while I was there, and so there's, because, it's the nostalgia around that and stuff too, but I've moved so many times that I understand, I end up making memories. It's more about it's the whole cliche of like, it's the memories you make while you're there and who you're with. And so, yes, I loved that house and loved our little mini ranch there, but I knew what we were doing, the big picture outweighed it.
When I speak to my kids, and I speak to all these people on the podcast, and I've spoken just to tons of people, I start to realize that some people don't value the meaning of words as much as I do. And
Mm,
the reason why I value the meaning of words is because some things are in my head and some things are out in reality. And when you conflate the two is where almost all confusion begins, and there's a breakdown in communication.
yeah.
And even yesterday, when I'm listening to Will Willett, who I love to death, he's the handsome dude at PragerU who goes out to the campuses.
I know
Have
Will
you
does.
had him on your podcast?
Yeah, I've had Will on. I've had Will on a couple times. He
I
came
can't wait to
on.
have him on. I hope he comes
Yeah,
on.
good dude, man. Just I had him on, just him and I, and then I had him on. He actually came on like a month ago to speak with the young men of Apogee, and I want to have you come on too. I think that'd be phenomenal. But yeah, Will's a good guy. And then we were supposed to. Remember how I was supposed to? I was saying I wanted to try to connect with you when I was in
At
the
the street
Bay.
parking thing. Yeah.
So Will and I were supposed to be speaking at an event that weekend there in the area. So he and I were supposed to be doing an event together, and the event ended up getting canceled all together. So, but yeah, good guy.
A video came out yesterday where he conflates, he uses, and a ton of people do this, and I don't understand why they're doing it. They're using the word gender instead of the word sex.
Yeah.
So gender is and every time I hear the conversation, I'm like, it's so obvious to me what's going on. There, gender is your imagination. It's something you can't share with anyone. It's in between your ears.
Yep.
So, and sex is something on the outside that you and I can look at and be like, okay, that frog is its sex is male, or
Yep.
that frog has both male and female parts, or whatever. What do you think's going on with society that you see smart people talking and they can't they're not defining words,
Yeah.
and so the communication is just missing.
Yeah.
And even when I bring it up on my show, people are like, "Oh, you're so stupid, Sevan. Oh, it doesn't matter." Or they try to poo-poo me. I'm like, no, this is
words.
your imaginary dragon in your head is different than than this horny toad lizard sitting on this rock. It's not a dragon.
No,
it's a lizard.
words.
It's a Northern California lizard.
God, it's amazing. Words. I don't think this is accidental that we've got people, and it's coming down specifically intentionally hard from academia. And again, I don't think that's unintentional. Words matter because words become your thoughts. Your thoughts.
You mean there's people, when you say not intentionally, you mean there's people trying to fuck shit up?
Oh, I very much believe so. Otherwise, why get into this is a silly sort of thing, right? We processed animals. I have a processing facility on site at our ranch, right? So we had to process some animals yesterday. My kids wanted to be a part.
That means turn them into food, processed?
Turn them into food. That's exactly
Okay.
right. That means we started the day, they were alive and well. We had been feeding them. They ended the day, they are feeding us or somebody else. Okay. Right? And so my kids wanted to be part of that process. They've been a part since we've been here, a part of taking care of and raising and the birthing, and they've done all this, but they haven't gone into the processing hut yet to see that part. But they were curious, and they go, you know what, we want to see this part. Like, we think we're ready for it. We want to see it. We understand it. We want to see what's going on, right? And so we went in there yesterday, and it was just, they were curious on the whole thing, but they were curious every time we were processing one. We were doing rabbits yesterday, and you can't tell a boy or a girl very easily, but as you start to process it, then it becomes very easy. And so they were just very interested on, okay, is it a boy? Is it a girl? There wasn't do you think it identifies as a, do you think it like, again, this is all imaginary crap. So I do think it's very intentional that we've got people in academia specifically, and the goal of especially quote unquote higher ed right now is not, and again, I'm painting a broad stroke. So yes, there's good professors. Yes, there's good people. Yes, there's good people working at a lot of these universities. But, academia has become this really weird culture of mumbo jumbo and confusion and all of this, philosophy in area. I'm all for philosophy, but not in philosophy when there's things that are black and white, like you said, all this made up shit. And it's just,
is this a Ferrari or is this a van that crashed? Because we have to bring the jaws of life to it, because a certain jaws of life will open up this van and one will open up this Ferrari. It's like the same thing with sex. But why are those people caterpillars and I'm a butterfly, that they can't tell the distinction? Am I more enlightened than them, that they can't tell the distinction between their thoughts and reality? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I know red doesn't mean stop. I know that it's you and I have agreed upon it so we don't get in an accident. I'm willing to participate in that lie. It's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie to myself, and red actually means stop.
Yeah. No, I think we just have a lot of broken. I think we have. I think you're either evil or broken. I think if you're perpetuating all of this stuff, you're either doing it intentionally to confuse the shit out of people and make sure that there is a natural division, to make sure that you are confusing the next. Like, my mission is to build strong young people so they don't have to fix so many fucking broken ones that are older, right? I want to build strong people from the ground up. They can't be just they've got this super solid foundation, so they can't be cracked, they can't be messed with. And then when they get older, they're strong people. They're the leaders that we need. I think that's a far more efficient way to go about it than trying to fix the people broken later on. So I think these people are either evil enough to want to, send that confusion down the line and really just create this perpetual influx of confused, sad individuals, or they are already these confused and sad individuals. I don't know anybody that is perpetuating the gender silliness and the gender nonsense
Who's
that
happy?
I would say is a happy person, man.
Right.
Right? Like,
I used to be one of them, though. I used to be one of them in the sense that I towed the line. But I would say I was far from evil. Like I've always been the guy who would stop and pick up a hitchhiker, or held the door open, or stood up anytime someone came to the table, or if I'm in line, even if what you bought behind me, if I'm at the store and I only have $20 and you're at the cash register and this place only takes cash, I don't make you leave your shit there. I say, fuck it, I'm buying this dude's shit. This is fucked up.
Totally. So I think there's probably far few that are in that evil range, and maybe there are, but maybe it's fear, right? And it's not like there's the people that aren't happy that are perpetuating this, but I think so many people live in fear, and maybe that was
I think I was asleep. I don't know if that's maybe it was scared. I feel like I was asleep at the wheel.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? I feel like.
Yeah. And just kind of following the status quo.
Yeah, like you told me being a vegan's healthy, I did it. You tell me being a carnivore's healthy, I just did it. Like
Yeah. And see, I think to me,
do you think that's the vast majority? They're just
it is the vast majority. I think that is somewhat of a fear base, because you don't want to challenge somebody else's, what they told you, the quote unquote.
Yeah,
right
I wanted to be liked, for sure.
Right? You want to be liked. You want to value somebody else's opinion far more than ever developing your own. And then you go through, it's that whole, you don't even realize you're a slave. You don't realize you're in a cage, and you think the birds flying outside the cage are the crazy ones. It's that whole,
shit. Oh shit.
Right. And so I think that's like, the words are the easiest, as long as you're injecting fear into people and you have them valuing somebody else's opinions more than taking the time for them to create their own. You don't give them the opportunity to create their own through any kind of civil discourse. You don't let them understand how to explore logic. And then you start jumbling these words, like you're saying, with gender and sex, and you start making things, words matter, because words become your thoughts become your beliefs become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your character, right? So it starts, that foundation is your words. And if you start making words confusing and not matter, well, you're shaking the foundation of character from the get-go.
Man.
So it's strange, man. And so I don't, there's a peace of mind that comes in not even engaging with some of this stuff where it's like, I don't know, if there was a whole group of adults that was, it was the "we believe in Santa Claus" society. Like, I'm not going to join the society, because I don't want to take my time to try to argue back and forth on if Santa's real or not. I'm just like, dude, it's not a real thing. I don't want to waste my time on this. Kind of where I look at the whole gender thing, man. Like, I get that there's some people that are really confused and broken on it. If somebody asks me my opinion on it, I'm going to say, I don't even think it's an opinion-based topic. Here it is. But I'm not going to spend my time engaging back and forth too. God bless the people that will, because to me, that's a waste of time and energy. It's crazy. but it is the backbone of academia right now. I mean, there's so much of this conversation, you know, so it's scary. Well, it's one of the many reasons I'm not bullish on, you know, quote unquote, higher ed for so many people. I don't think it's needed, but I think there's so many agendas. And by the way, it gets pushed into your K through 12 now too, and it's going to be. So that's some of the more obvious stuff that I think parents can't avoid by not doing the traditional conveyor belt schools is the agendas. And then you got the sneaky stuff is in terms of like your habits, you know, and so it's a weird ass world, man, where those are the things that we end up talking about.
Did your kids cry when they were in the processing plant?
Nope.
No.
Nope, they didn't. But no,
Did you watch them? Like, I'm assuming. So sorry, I'm making the assumption that they didn't go in there right away because it is heavy.
Yep. We wanted to be,
because lives are ending in there, right? Lives are ending in there.
That's exactly right. So we wanted to be efficient with it first before we even just made sure they knew, like, hey, if you guys ever want to be a part of that, come on in. Right. So we made sure we were good because that's a skill in and of itself, figuring out how to do it properly. You know, so we made sure that we were good at it first, and then, you know, we kind of offered it up, and they're like, "That's interesting. I'd be interested."
Did you cry at all? Did you cry when you went and saw it?
No, I didn't.
No.
I have she didn't, and she was unsure. I was pretty sure. Yeah. I mean, I've gone hunting. I've field dressed animals. I've had that experience a little bit. We've had the conversations around, you know, being thankful and raising animals humanely and being thankful for the food they provide. And, you know, we've had those conversations, my wife and I, with our entire family. She wasn't sure if she was going to be able to witness it and not be emotionally shaken, you know.
So she did okay.
So she did okay. And so that's what I was more worried about with the kids is like, look, it's different. You understand, you have an understanding. They know exactly what's going on. They understand the ethics behind all of it and why we do what we do. And the health component, you know, those are all conversations. They get that whole thing. But there's a difference between that and then seeing it, you know? And so they've seen me, like, I've had to off a couple chickens that were sick or hurt and getting attacked. And like, they've been out there for that and they've been okay. And so this is a whole different deal. So I just made sure before every step, I'm like, okay, here's what this is going to be. Here's what this is going to look like. If you don't want to see this part, it's okay to go back there. So my middle, they both, you know, like the rabbits are a specific process. So like they were, all three were okay when I actually dispatched the first kill, the breaking of the neck. Very quick. Rabbit feels nothing. Just boom, it's done. They were all okay with that. But then you got to bleed the rabbit out. My middle didn't want to see the first one I was doing. She's like, I don't think so. And so she went around the other side. I'm like, no sweat. We did it. And she sort of started to tear up. And then she told my wife, no, it's more like I feel like I'm missing out. And we're like, you're not missing out. You'll have plenty of time. She's like, okay, I'm going to do it for the next one. And she came back around to watch the second one. And they watched us do like 5 yesterday.
I mean, it's healthy. We're just, I mean, the way I see the world, the way I see myself is I'm just a mirror. So anytime something is suffering or its life ends, I feel it's like a piece of me. I feel that.
Sure. Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not, you know, we try to, one of the rules in our house, you know, the 11 kind of values that we have on there. One of those is to be an emotional ninja. And we kind of phrase it in that kind of funny terms, but that's the whole thing, is to understand that emotions are not bad things. They're good things. They're things that are valuable, but you've got to understand with intentionality how to control those emotions versus being controlled by the emotions. And so this is one of those things where it's like, look, this is natural emotion to feel. There's a loss of life that is happening here. And so there's a balance between feeling for the loss of life and respecting that, versus being super grateful and the gratitude that we have around being able to provide for our family. And, you know, so it's figuring out how to balance that out. And people say, oh, that's too high level of concept for kids. That's horseshit. They get that, man. In a lot of ways, they get it more than we do if we don't dumb it out of them. And
it doesn't matter if they don't get it either.
Doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant.
Right. You're right.
And they may get it one way now, and they may get it one way when they're 40, and then they may get it one way when they're gonna get it one way when they have their heart broken when their toy breaks. Then when they're 16 and their girlfriend dumps them, that's gonna be a different kind of experience with it. And then when their
Sure.
mommy and daddy die when they're 60 years old, that's gonna be another. It's gonna evolve.
Right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. It does not matter. Yep. And you have a conversation.
I loved with reckless abandon as a kid, from kindergarten to the girls in kindergarten to my wife and my kids. And because of that, I hurt a lot, emotionally. And I tell people, and that's how I became an emotional ninja.
Yeah.
That's how I became so intimate with emotions. It's like what you were saying. It's like working out. If you avoid getting hurt, or like the example I like to give is, there was a girl in college, and she was a foreign exchange student, and she was leaving in 2 weeks. And one of my friends was in love with her. I'm like, dude, let's go to that party where that chick's at. He's like, dude, she's leaving in 2 weeks. I'm like, so what? I'm like, just fucking make every second count with her. He goes, no, I don't want to be hurt. I like her so much. I'm like, dude, we could die in an earthquake tomorrow. Are you out of your fucking mind? Go over there and fucking like dive in and get your heart broken. Who gives a shit?
That's an inch, and that's
right. Like,
oh man, no, I agree. Do you think it's so,
mine was out of ignorance? That's why I did it. I was out of ignorance.
Has that process shifted for you? Right. So like now, like, you still love with reckless abandon, you have the potential to get hurt, but does that allow you to then take that and go, put a perspective to that hurt and go, look, that's just part of the process. I'm okay. And so then it hurts less.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because you've actually had that experience.
And because I'm a butterfly and not a caterpillar, I can watch things now.
Yeah.
I can watch I'm not confused by my thought. I'm not confused about what's going on in here. I'm not saying I don't ever get overwhelmed and taken over by it. I'm not saying when someone cuts me off, I never flip anyone off, but 99% of the time I watch that, and I watch it then turn into say hi to them. And then I watch it turn into, oh, I'm glad we didn't get into an act. I just watch. I can watch now. I'm a butterfly. I can watch the dumbass caterpillar inside of me. And so emotions move fast.
Yes.
And so they'll grab you if you're not, you got to be on guard.
Yep, absolutely. But that's
hyper aware.
That's I think that is a level of self-mastery that I think all of us can get to and should try to get to, that ability to detach. We've had
but you won't cultivate that unless you every time you get hurt, it's a rep. You have to be appreciative and be like, okay, I learned something a little bit from that one.
Yes,
right?
You've got to be intentional about it. That's exactly it. Yeah, we've had I had Carlos Mendez, Leif Babin, some of the echelon front guys. Had them come talk to my staff at a few of my schools, which was really cool. And Carlos did a phenomenal job. We've had Leif on the Apogee calls, did a great job with the young guys. And that's one of my favorite things they talk about, is that ability to detach as a leader. The fact that we're all leaders, and as a leader, we have to have that ability to do what you said, and kind of like what you said, kind of the butterfly, and you can kind of watch all of that. You got to be able to remove yourself emotionally from the situation so that you can go, okay, well, what is the correct response as far as I see it right now, without emotions clouding that whole thing. But you're right. You got to put in the reps, man. Got to put in the reps. And people aren't proactive. People are not proactive about the way they live, the way they think. Everybody's reactive. Again, it goes back to that kind of like, you're in that cage, and it's the fear. And if somebody say, I'm just going to go along with the status quo, people are reactive. And I think that's part of the reason people are so freaking,
If you're wondering if you're doing bad parenting or good parenting, if you're on the more reactive side, then you're bad parenting. That's like a litmus test. I don't know if it's 100% true, but being non-reactive is the secret in my book to parenting. Just lots of just like, oh shit, just watch my own noise in my head. Don't do shit. Totally. Don't project that onto my kids. Be chill. Be chill.
100%, man. And honestly, one of the favorite. So I've gotten to do, I don't know, what have I done? I've done 150 some odd episodes, I think, of the podcast. I remember your episode 89. There's specific ones that I remember, very, very specific, but that is one piece of that episode where you talked about how parents need to not react on certain things. And that is their job, is to, and I think you framed it some way of like, you got to stop, a kid falls down, they get hurt. Your job is not to react to that. Your job is to stop, to look around, to make sure they're not in danger, make sure no bears are coming out of the woods to come eat them. And you don't rob them of that rep of getting that air squat to stand up. You don't rob them of that opportunity to dust themselves off and to see themselves as resilient, right? That was, I think it's one of the most powerful things anybody's ever said on the podcast. I could not agree with it any more than I do. I think that's powerful.
I shit you not. I'm not saying this to be fucking cute, and neither is Matt. I'm not fucking around. My kid, I walked him every day, and he fell down 500 times a day. And while you kept your kid in a stroller or in a pack in the front because you were in a hurry to get somewhere, or because grandma and grandpa or you ran over and picked your kid up, my kid did 500 air squats a day when your kid didn't. By the time my kid was 3 years old, he had done 45,000 air squats, and your kid had only done 500.
There you go.
How much better is my kid than your kid? I'm saying it. My wife's going to hate me for that. But it's the fucking truth. My kid is better than your kid because he did 44,500 more air squats than yours in his first 2.5 years. And I didn't have to do shit. I had Jeremy Kinnick on here. He's big into homeschooling, and he wrote something on his Instagram that fucking exploded my brain. Because people ask me all the time, what should I do to start training my kid? And I'll write him out these long things. But Jeremy said it in one sentence.
What did he say?
When if in the first 6 years of your kid's life, if they're outside 80% of the time, that's all you need to do. I was like, oh shit. Oh shit.
It's true.
80% of the waking hours, your kid should be fucking outside. But Sevan, it snows here. I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
Yep. And
that's the gold. That's the gold standard. He's going to get strong. He's going to get smart. He's going to learn math. He's going to see bugs. He's going to get biology. He's going to get history. He's going to get social interaction. He's going to get everything if you have your kid outside 80% of the time. I was like, wow, it's that fucking easy.
That easy. And he's going to start to develop what's going on in here. He's going to start to develop that ability to be resilient on his own. He's going to start
because he's outside.
That's right. He's outside and he's going to fall down. He's going to get hurt. And he's going to be like, oh shit, nobody else is around. I'm not going to drag this out. Like, let's go. Cause I got playing to do. I got a mission to accomplish.
He's going to see dad help a woman with her groceries. He's going to see dad pick him up when a dog barks at him. He's going to see, and he's going to learn all the nuances of.
I love it, man. I love it. So good. So good, man. Yeah. And that's it. That's the intent. The intentionality around parenting doesn't mean complexity. It just means, no, it's not about adding more and more shit. It's about stripping away the bullshit.
Yeah.
It's that. It's not adding, it's stripping it away. It's about getting back to the basic stuff. That's exactly.
Hey, even at 50, I always tell people now, my life gets better every time I get rid of something.
Yep.
Stripping. It's about throwing shit away.
Strip it away. Strip it away. I was so, Ben Greenfield.
I know of him. I don't know him.
Okay. So Ben,
he's the guy, he does the voiceover for is he a comedian?
No, Ben is,
he's the dude with the two kids. He snorts tobacco, that dude?
Two guy, he might, man. He does all kinds of crazy stuff. He'll do some weird stuff in the name of like health and fitness, do some weird experimentation.
Yes, okay, I know who he is. Right? Yeah.
He's a super ultra fit dude. He's a super smart guy. Like almost too smart, where it's like, oh, maybe you're not human, maybe. But like interesting dude. So, but super cool guy. And he reached out and he's got two twins and he's gonna put them in the Apogee program, right? And so I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. That sounds great. Here's how it gets going. And what I thought was super interesting, because he's very intentional, obviously, about being proactive, because he is he's always trying something. He's experimenting with stuff. He's experimenting on himself. He's documenting. He's just very, very intentional. He shot me this email. I was like, hey, I want to get this going. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's what's happening. And then immediately it was his assistant that was coming in, even just to talk about how do you pay for this program? How do you get this? It wasn't even him. He is outsourced. He's outsourced even just that basic, I'm signing my kids up for something. He's like, cool, man. Well, this isn't something that needs my direct attention. Here you go. And the more and more people I interact with that I know are really, really proactive about their life and very intentional about what they do, the more I'm seeing that too. They strip away everything that is taking time away from what they deem as necessary. And I think that's a pretty intense, awesome skill to cultivate.
I had my Instagram account shut down 3 days ago.
I was
And
going to ask you, did you?
yeah, it just gone. And I have this other Instagram account, and I actually thought this morning, maybe I'm not going to run my own Instagram account anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, easy enough to
Like,
do.
yeah, maybe I'll just give my Instagram account to the person who does the Instagram account for the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just pros and cons. What is is there, the pluses, the minuses? Is there anything you're gaining out of that? Or is it easy enough to just, get back?
I just like it because I can communicate. Oh shit. Speaking of which, I can't so how about the fucking irony of this? First of all, I want to show you something really quick. This is some fucked up shit I'm about to show you. I hope you're going to be like, Sevan, you're a dipshit. You're spelling my name wrong. But I want to show you something here.
Oh no, you're probably right.
I want to show you something. Let's see, Instagram. Okay, so here's Instagram.com. Oh, look at
it's got your old account in there.
Yeah. Oh man, how am I gonna do this? I can't go to any of your fucking account. Anyway, when I type in your name,
yeah,
your account won't even show up. Yeah. MATTBEAUDREAU.
Yeah.
Your account won't pop up, but 4 or 5 fake accounts will pop up, and they have shitloads of followers.
Yep.
One of the accounts has 5,000 followers. And this morning, you DM'd me asking me if I want to get involved with Bitcoin with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember doing that?
It sure as hell wasn't me, dude. I know.
Fucking crazy.
There's new ones. There's new each week. And I know I'm not the only person that has that going on, but there are new accounts each week. And people will always, send it. What sucks is that they're DMing people talking about, getting involved in crypto and all these different things, man. And it's, I feel bad. Some people are jumping in and they're like, oh, interesting, whatever.
Hey, they've completely rebuilt your account.
100%.
It has all your posts and shit.
It's got all my posts, dude. It's got my pictures. Like, it's amazing. And I've reported a ton of them. Instagram always comes back and goes, they're not violating any sort of standard, but I post a fucking Harriet Tubman quote. And it's like, we're fact checking this. If you keep posting things like this, we're going to shut your account down. I
didn't get any warnings, by the way. I didn't get any warnings.
Did you not? No.
Yeah, I asked one of my friends. I was like, I asked one of my friends. I'm like, fuck, I have no idea why they shut me down. He goes, dude, everything you post is the reason they shut you down.
Probably. Yeah, probably, man. Totally. I mean,
I want to read this to you.
Crazy.
So the DM came in and says, hello, brother. And I thought it was you. And I said, hey, they shut down my other account. And I said that because I thought you were just like checking in to make sure it was a new account. Yeah. And then you wrote to me, it happens sometimes, bro. Sorry to hit you up from the blue. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. I have a podcast with him in a half hour. He's not hitting me up from the blue. Uh-huh. I'm hoping you could lend me your time for a brief chat. I'm contacting you in respect to a business proposal I might believe you might find interesting. And then I know it's not you. So I write back, of course, anything for you, man. Then he goes on to tell me about how he wants me to go into Bitcoin. I said, dude, anything to help you out. I'll call and we can talk. And now he just wrote this to me. No need for a call. My idea is to build a solid capital base for investors by helping trades and blah, blah, blah. I guess you, and then he always writes at the end, I guess you'd like to know more.
Oh my God. So it's not, this dude's not even American. I mean, it's not an American thing.
No, it's not. Yeah. But look at.
That's so funny. And he's got my name spelled right. And then he's got a dot and an underscore afterwards.
Yeah. Good eyes. You saw that?
Yeah. So, wow, dude. That's so, yeah. I mean, so it's amazing. And again, I'll report it, man. And Instagram's like, oh, they're not violating anything. Okay. Cool.
I reported it and they said, is this a celebrity account? And I said, yes, celebrity account. And then it kicked me back. Like for some, like they wouldn't let me report you as a celebrity account. I had to put something else. I was like, yeah, dude, he's affiliated with schools in fucking 26 countries, 300 schools. I think that counts as a celebrity account.
No, you gotta have
fake titties and a big old booty.
That's right. Well, maybe that's what I gotta get, man. Maybe that's next on the agenda. I know. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. That sucks that you got shut down.
Well, the only reason it sucks is because that blue check mark, when a blue check mark pops into someone's inbox, like I had Patrick Bet David on. Do you know who that is?
Oh, I've had Patrick on. Yeah.
Okay. And like he
Yep.
would have never fucking responded to me, I bet you, if I didn't have a blue check mark.
Yeah, maybe.
And
Yeah.
and what an honor it was to have him. So
He's a good dude. We're gonna Tim and I are depending on Tim's schedule, we may go out to Florida and do Patrick's podcast. Too.
Oh, he moved the whole shebang there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He's a cool dude, man. That guy's a good guy. He was on the podcast, and I remember one of the most poignant things he said, which I appreciated. I appreciated greatly too. He's like, look, if you were talking about schools, and he's like, look, if you've gone through this conveyor belt school system and you peaked in high school, you lost at life. You suck.
Oh shit.
And I was like, yep, that's it, man. Because so many people resting on, God, I want, because I get that all the time from parents, man, is but I had such a great time in high school, man. Prom was great. The football games were great. And then, they don't talk about how they haven't really dug the next 30 years of their life. They haven't been super stoked about that, but shit, they'll hang on to those 4 years and want to put their kids back through that same thing to get those experiences, sacrificing the rest of their life for it. And Patrick called that out. So I appreciated that.
Hey, I have friends who peaked in high school.
For sure.
Tons of them. I never even thought of it worded like that. What great.
For
4.0,
sure.
went to Berkeley, went to Stanford, went to UCLA, and then their lives. You said something in that podcast too that was, I don't know if it really affected me, but it was my life. But I think I was too stupid for it to affect me, thank God, or too naive. But basically, everything was put on my education. And up until third grade, I was the smartest kid in my school. I was fucking like a genius, and I knew it, and I was smarter than everyone. And then in the third grade, something happened, and it went to a steep decline all the way to my senior year. I was the dumbest kid in the school. Something just happened. And I fell behind, and I could never get caught up. And even though I loved school, I loved the social part, I hated academia. And it was brutal on me. It destroyed my relationship with my mom, my dad. It fucking made life miserable.
Right.
And then I ended up, no one ever once was like, hey, don't worry about that. You might be good at this.
Right. That's it. And you're a brilliant human being.
And no one ever said, not one time did anyone ever. And when you were talking yesterday in that podcast, I was like, holy fuck. It's like this. I love my dad. My parents gave me love, which is like, I'm so lucky, like real love.
Yeah.
But my dad in my life has told me 1,000 times the difference of how to use lay and lie, because I use them wrong. I lie down, I lay down. Yeah. But he always says the exact same thing, and he's never tried something new, which makes me realize he doesn't even care if I learn it. That's not it's it's just
his habit.
Autopilot nonsense bullshit.
Yeah, just his habit. It also should eventually get everybody to realize that it probably doesn't matter that much either.
Well, I'd like to have mastery over the English language. I appreciate him taking the time, but you're right. It's
lay and lie, but you're happy and you don't get along with your wife and your kids think you're a shitbag.
Oh,
you know what? I would trade that out.
And you don't know the difference between, and you use the word sex and gender interchangeably and add to the confusion. That's the other thing too. There's no homeostasis. It's not just that you don't know the difference. You interchange gender and sex. You're actually adding to the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're adding to the confusion. That's 100%.
You're adding to the confusion.
And and going back to what you're saying earlier, that is that third grade, which is super. So it's right about that 8 years old ish. What happens is there's kind of these developmental phases. So it's roughly about 8 years old. You kind of step into another sort of developmental phase in terms of learning and your capacity to think at a little bit of a higher level and kind of what you're interested in and figuring some things out about yourself. And you kind of stepping into this. And so that is, and almost always subconsciously, but it's about the time where a young person realizes, if they're in a conveyor belt school system, they kind of realize that they're in this specific game or the specific system that they're playing. they kind of come to that realization right about there. And I've seen this, and people, oh, where's the studies around this? I don't know. Maybe there's some, maybe there aren't. I'll tell you, my studies are 2 decades in academia with thousands and thousands of young people and having this conversation with parents and young people over and over and over again. There's my study. If you don't
Matt
like
was
that
a teacher in private schools. He was a teacher in public schools. He was an administrator in private schools. He was an administrator in public schools. He was involved with Stanford University for people who do need credentials. Okay, go on. Sorry. So at 8 years old.
Oh, totally. So it's right about that time where they start to realize that game, and then they just start to figure out where they are in that game. So they'll start to take on, ooh, okay, I've kind of, and I remember figuring that out and going, okay, cool, I can play this game. I know how to do this. And so I got I got all my good grades because I figured out very early, well, there's a specific game, there's a specific way to get your grades on this kind of stuff. Not that I learned anything. I just had the wherewithal to go, okay, well, here's how you play the game to get the marks that makes all the adults happy, that makes the teacher go, you're a good little boy, that makes your parents go, way to go, you're so smart. Like, I just figured out how to play that game. But there are people who at that point go, ooh, I don't really get the game, or I get the game and I don't really give a shit about the game, right? And so you got all of these kind of different, they happens right around then, and it usually ends up impacting kind of the trajectory of how well you do in school, which, as you allude to, kind of, plays into all of these other relationships. And the point that I always try to make is, look, if we're in a system that is inherently putting people in that game, whether you learned to play the game or not, people say, well, I went to school and conveyor belt school, I turned out fine. My kids are going there and turn out fine. First of all, fine sucks. Second of all, you can be fine in that system because you figured out how to play the game, and it doesn't mean you know shit. And actually, you still just stayed in there and you developed all kinds of bad habits that don't actually transfer into anything successful later on in life. And that's a problem. And all default setting for a human being is genius. Default setting. If you're not messing them up, if you're not putting in some sort of, physical abuse, you're not putting in, medications and a bunch of garbage that messes up a kid's, biology, if you're not screwing with all that kind of stuff, genius is the natural default. So
if you don't believe what Matt's saying right now, at least recognize this. We started the show where he defined what an educator is, and he defined an educator as someone who believes in other people at their foundation. And so what he's letting you know right now is that he thinks the default status of all human beings is genius. So even if you don't believe that, we already know that he's an educator. Now, who the fuck would you want to be around? Someone who thinks that or someone who doesn't think that? They're both thoughts. They're both just thoughts. I'll be with the guy who thinks that everyone's a genius at their default. Okay, sorry, go on. Potential. He believes these are the people you want around your fucking kids. They believe in your kids will live up to that shit.
And
sorry, I had to.
No, man, no, I appreciate that very much, because the system of schooling, the soulless, I'm not talking about teachers. Again, I had good teachers, good administrators. There are so many good humans out there. I support all of you. But the system of conveyor belt schooling does not care if your young hero is a genius or not. They don't make it. There's no distinction. It's kind of like that computer. The computer can't, the computer's always going to be about answers, right? The computer's never going to say, I don't know. Well, that soulless system is going to say, look, here is the narrow definition of how you do well within the confines of our walls. And so unless you are playing this game of being blindly obedient, of following directions, of changing your thought process at the sound of a bell, of going where you're told, when you're told to be there, of regurgitating the specific information at a very specific time, very conveyor belt style, unless you do that, well, then we're going to start kicking out these things saying something is wrong with you, or you're behind, or just as dangerous, they'll tell you, oh, you're extremely smart. And what that usually means is you're good at regurgitating academia and you're really, really obedient. Yeah. Oh, you're a model student. And guess what? Those model students a lot of times end up having a really hard time when they go into the real world that doesn't give a shit that they got straight A's. Yeah. And wants to see resilience, and they want to see competence, and they want to see, your ability to actually do something and your ability to adapt. Well, you haven't developed any of those. You haven't.
Well, you know what? These people at the top of these fucking companies, though, Matt, they have their own vernacular that they learned when they became a Stanford MBA. And of course they're dipshits and they don't know how to run their company, but they know how to run their company. They've taught themselves their own language. I give you a perfect example. The two most eminently capable fucking human beings who work at CrossFit Inc., which I think CrossFit is one of the greatest gifts ever given to humanity, but by Greg Glassman. It's a methodology and an ideology and a lifestyle that allows people to become independent. It's the seeds of all independence to make you capable to let your DNA express itself in the most fullest essence ever. They have fucking, I don't know if they're morons. I was going to say that out of emotional frustration. They have people at the top who don't have the intellectual capacity to understand what they're running, and they're only there because of their degrees and their previous experiences in the world of the people who bought the company. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're Harvard, Yale, Stanford MBAs. They don't even know what they don't know. They're so, I'll give you they're so fucking crazy. They think they bought Harley Davidson, a motorcycle manufacturing plant that's there to make money and sell a brand, but they bought the fucking Hells Angels. There is no motorcycle plant. There's not. It's not at all. It's just a lifestyle of dudes wearing leather jackets, delivering meth up and down the western coast of the United States. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And they don't even have the intellectual capacity to realize it, so they can't make use of it. They can't deliver the meth. They can't get it done. And so I get a little, is that true what you said? Like, are the kids who come out like we're stuck being entrepreneurs? We can never be cogs. I can never become the CEO, even though I would be 1,000 times better at it, better in every way, help more people, make more money, do better for the world, be more honest, everything. But I can't because I don't speak their language of return on investment, ROI. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just the heart.
How do I jump that? Like you're telling kids like, I'm just pushing back here a little bit. You're telling kids, hey, you don't have to do this route, but if you don't, you can't play with those kids. You got to make your own shit.
Why would I want to play with those kids anyways? I'd rather make my own shit, but I get what you're saying. I think the reality is you could do, if you kind of foster that entrepreneurial DNA, right? And I get, we get a lot of people pushing back on our schools saying, guy, because we have every one of our kids starts in business. They all start businesses 5 years old to 18 years old. They're starting.
Yeah, you have a business fair, which is amazing.
Exactly. Right. So they're either starting one every year, or they're taking their existing business that's making some money into perpetuity. So when they're doing that, we get a lot of pushback saying, oh, God, you just think everybody should be an entrepreneur. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think everybody's got the entrepreneurial DNA. I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. But I think if you have that, you have more of a chance of understanding what your gifts are, what that genius actually is, right? You actually have some self-awareness and some self-confidence. So then if you want to go play into that corporate, game, okay, well, I can go play that corporate game. I can see where I fit in there. I'm freely choosing to play this corporate game. I'll freely choose to deal with all the bureaucratic, BS. I'll freely choose to deal with the delusional, Harvard MBA that's running the show. I'll freely choose to try to figure out how to navigate and adapt in there, or I can freely choose to do the other thing. I think if you go through the conveyor belt school, you're more apt to just, first of all, you have no idea how to run your own shit. Second of all, you'll just go in there and you'll be the cog in there, and you'll never actually figure out what your genius is. You'll never actually be super, you don't get to that peace, that's that self-awareness, that happiness, that self-confidence. You don't get there because you're just continuously going along the path that somebody else has written for you. That bystander in your own life. Other people are writing the script. They're making you a background character in your own life, versus over here, I've got the pen, I'm writing my story. And if I want to write my story where I go in and work for some dipshit, I can write my story that way. That's great.
Right.
Or I can write it where I'm the hero of my own story and go do my other thing. But I don't think you can come through. I won't say can't. I think it's much more difficult to be trained in the habits of 12 years, 16 years, whatever it is, of follow somebody else's script. And then at the end of that, go, okay, now I'm going to write my own script. I think that's a much more difficult thing. I really do. I don't think that happens very often.
And those people I see who are plugged in as those cogs, their lives look like they suck.
Man,
even the rich ones.
even the rich. So I tell this story sometimes, man. When I got to, because I did a lot of traveling, a lot of speaking, and got to work with some amazing companies. Got to work with some really cool brands, some really cool organizations. Got to meet some really cool people. And I was speaking to a group. It was a group of banks in the Midwest. It was a family-owned group of banks, community banks, and we were flying around on these jets and the company jet, private jet, owned by the CEO. We're on these jets, dude. We're making this trip, and the CEO broke down on one of these things, and he was crying, and he was talking about how much he had just kind of followed along the path that had been laid out for him, and he did the school thing, and he got his grades, and he came into the company business because that's what he was supposed to do, and he took over because that's what he's supposed to do. He's uber wealthy. We're on his freaking jet, but he was crying about the fact that he just did not like the way his life had turned out, and he had just gone ahead and let somebody else write the story for him. And so he was really upset about that at his core. And he was probably about 50 years old at the time. And we landed, and he went over into the bathroom, and I ended up getting into a conversation with a mechanic at this little private airfield. And the guy was 40 years old at the time, and was telling me he was 2 weeks away from retirement because he had always known, he'd always had this love for airplanes. He'd always had this love for just, working with all things mechanical. He went straight from 18, graduated high school, went and learned how to work on these planes, and had been working at these little private airfields, just enjoying the hell out of his life for 22 years, fixing these little private airplanes, had banked away a shit ton of his money, had purchased a bunch of real estate. And he's like, man, I make so much passive income. I'm done. He's ridiculously happy retiring at 40. I got 50-year-old multimillionaire that's crying about how his life turned out, right? We have those choices. And again, why don't we present all of these choices and options and keep the wonder of the world out there for our young kids? And that's one of the irony statements that I hate, because we have so many adults, that want to tell the kids, and they mean it from an altruistic standpoint. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want to do. But then the kids also watch them bitch and moan about their own life and how their job sucks and how their life sucks and how they're not in the shape they want and how the relationship with this person's broken. So then the kid's going, okay, well, you're telling me I can be anything, but I'm looking at you. It doesn't look like that's actually the case. So I'm seeing hypocrisy here, right? So the kid's calling bullshit right away. And it's de-incentivizing being an adult. Kids don't even want to become adults now. Why? Because adults are freaking fear-based. Adults are sad. Adults are always arguing with other adults. Adults are always distracted. Why would I want to be an adult? It looks like a shit gig. We've got
I was so glad when I realized that I never had to be an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to define what it is. That's the beauty.
Do you follow the CEO of Instagram? Do you follow that guy?
Nope.
Man, you want to I forget his name, Mosini or something, but I follow him, and it is so, every post is so, I mean, you described him. I bet you that guy cries himself to sleep every night. It's bad. It's really, oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. But one of the post that stands out the most is he must live in San Francisco, and it shows him riding bikes in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park, one of the most beautiful places you could be on the planet. And him and his kids are riding bikes, and they all have masks on. But if you saw the wokeness echo chamber he lives in of delusion, it must be, his life must be brutal, and I'm sure he's being compensated greatly, right? So he's having to. Oh, it's so bad. It's so sad. Part of me feels so bad for him.
And then he gets his brand, the fear became, has become really not just in these last couple of years, but over the last decade or so, fear has become a virtue. Wokeness is
what do you mean by that? Fear's become a virtue? Like,
so it's become
respected.
It's become respected, right? It's been put on this pedestal, right? It's the whole
wow. I never even thought of that.
It's so ingrained. So you're encouraged to embrace that virtue because everybody else in your circle is applauding you.
I don't know one successful person who's embraced fear. Every successful person I know has faced fear. I just had Jalen Turner on, a UFC fighter, and he said that as a kid he was afraid of spiders and he faced it. He went out of his way and got a spider. And I mean, he's like, That's the premise of his whole life now.
That's it.
I'm
That's
just
exactly,
like,
that's exactly it. Yep. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's a backwards. It's backwards. And I don't pretend that school's the only place we got here, or that, bad parenting is the only avenue that got us here. But I think it's multifaceted, but I think both of those.
so you show your fear to kind of show. That's like the same way, like I would turn up my radio really loud when I drove down the street to show off my radio. You're saying some people will show their fear in order to get acceptance from their peers?
That's right, man. That's right. And it's like this culture of
That's
show off that
fucking nuts to me. I never even
show off
thought of that.
show off that you're sad, right? Because mental health is a giant buzzword, and I'm not knocking people being mentally healthy. I just tend to end up usually disagreeing with people on how to get mentally healthy. But the mental health is the buzzword, right? So it is virtuous now in a lot of these arenas to show how sad you are. And if I can get online and show people that I'm crying, and then I'm going to show them that I'm crying. I'm going to show them that I'm sad. I'm going to show them I'm sad about whatever I'm supposed to be sad about for the time. I'm sad for Ukraine, or I'm sad for whatever I'm being told to be sad about. I'm going to show you how sad I am so that I can get extra virtue points and brownie points. And, they do that with sadness and with fear and with, it's cool to be, it's cool to be depressed because it just gets people going, oh gosh, it's people used to, at least, and again, this may be just the old naive guy talking with a freaking white beard, that feels like people used to be enamored by, achievement and accomplishment and facing fears and overcoming, and being victorious. And, I think back to the movies we watched when we were kids, right? And I was talking about this with some people the other day, but like, the Rockies and you look at Schwarzenegger movies and you look at those things, these guys were big, these guys were jacked, these guys were capable, these guys were overcoming, these guys were beating the bad guys, they were beating the odds, they were beating all this. And culturally, I feel like that was us. And now it's kind of like enamored by, oh no, it's, if you're the victim, you're the best. And I just, it's a weird state.
Fucking bizarre.
It is, dude.
Hey, last time I had you on the show, we both had to go to the bathroom. Are you okay right now?
Dude, I had thought about that. I'm like, I've got one cup of coffee. I peed right before I came in.
Okay, good. Me too. You good?
Yeah, so good. That's so funny. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that. I was in the studio and I was like, man, I'm about to piss my pants. Yeah.
I normally stop at 90 minutes, but I would like to keep you longer. But if at any time you have to go, just tell me. No, I won't be phased.
I made sure, man. I have got I'm on another podcast at 2 p.m. my time. So we are way good. I want it to be open to whatever and wherever you want it to go, man. Whatever serves you best.
Let's talk about religion. Let's talk about so you have these 11 rules. For those of you who don't know, you can go back and listen to the other podcast, but there's these 11 values. Sorry, call them values. These 11 values, these 11 things that your family has sat down and came together with, and you have them written on the wall somewhere at your house. And one of them is and I can't pull it up on your Instagram because my Instagram is fucked, but it's called Memento Mori, and it's You Will Die. And I want to tie this in with the fact that your kids saw those rabbits get slaughtered, and I want to tie this in with religion. What do you think about that ideology being taught to kids? I like religion because there's a moral code.
Yeah.
But are we robbing our kids of the wonder of where you were before you were born and where you go when you die? These are the questions. Like, these are, even if it's not the answers to those questions that are important. It's the fact that they point to the portal of unknown, which most people, I don't know what age it happens, 3 or 4 years old, it closes and you can't get back in till you do 6 million hits of acid, or you have some life altering, you have to have something crazy has to happen. You open up the portal again. To see, where are you with religion? Because I heard you use the word evil, and I have I struggle with that word. As soon as you use it, I start circling you, like a shark. I start judging you. Like, well, why did he use that word?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I've never, the evil part, I don't, when I look at something like pedophilia and hurting it, to me, evil, done, like that's an easy word. I'd be interested to hear why. Would you? And I don't want to. I want to answer the question on religion
Please.
too, and talk about memento
Yeah.
mori. But like, so evil, so pedophilia. I look okay, evil. There's an
Right.
evil abuse of children there. Do you not like the word evil on that? And I'd be curious as to why.
I feel it's well, first of all, because I can't I feel it's intellectually
Like shallow.
or lazy maybe.
Yeah,
Um
that's fair. What would you say
so
instead?
like I don't know why Hitler did what he did.
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue. I can't even imagine. But when I do imagine it, I imagine that he thought he was doing something right. Like I can't think of anything inside of me that's like evil, meaning
Yeah.
like uh if I went to the supermarket and I get to my car and I realize they'd only charge me for one avocado and I had 6 and I didn't go back in, I know it's wrong,
Mhm.
but I don't think I'm evil.
No, I don't either.
I
But if
just
you,
think I'm lazy or I'm cheap or like
right,
you know what I mean? I
I
but
agree.
but
You went
but I
in and
just
bought
can't see
six.
doing something for the sake of when I
If
was a
you
kid
went,
and I used to shoot squirrels and shit, like I didn't do it because I was evil, I did it because I was ignorant. And then one day when I shot a dove and it fell in front of me, I was like, I gave my BB gun away. I'm like, fuck that. I
sure.
started crying. I was in high school. I was with my friends. They're like, dude, you just bought that gun. I'm like, I know, but I can't handle this shit no more. Fucking
If
bird. I wish it would have fallen 100 feet away so I didn't have to face it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get that.
Fucking die at my feet. You fucking ruined everything.
Is there
So when I
any,
hear evil, I just can't even. I can't even. I don't see the. I don't see.
if what would you, so let's say instead of
I've seen. I filmed famine in 3 different countries, Matt.
yeah,
I've been on 3 different continents. I've
yeah,
been to all 7 continents. I filmed movies in 100 countries. I've seen the poorest, craziest shit. Like
yeah,
when it comes to human deprivation,
for sure.
and I never like. Am I evil for not going back? Like I witnessed that. I could get on. I could sell all my houses and all my shit and go over there and feed those people,
Yeah.
but I don't.
So
Am I
are you
evil?
more of
Like
the mindset that evil itself is not necessarily a concept, or are you trying to define where the line is, right? Because let's say you bought,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
because you
know.
went in and bought 6 avocados. Let's say instead of going in and buying 6 avocados, you went in and bought 6 8-year-old little girls that you were going to take home and abuse. And even if you thought for some reason that was right and okay, what would you define? What would be the word or words to describe that human being that knowingly is taking little girls? I'm going to go take them away from their parents, from their life. They're clearly distraught, panic, all of those things. And then we are going to do ungodly things
I
to
don't
them.
know. I don't know, man.
Like to me, I'm just like, maybe evil is a lazy way to describe it. But at that point, I wouldn't even want to describe it. I would just want to put a bullet in a head, and
Like,
I'm
well,
okay sitting there for a while.
yeah, like um, George Floyd put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach in her
Mm-hmm.
house in a home invasion robbery,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think, oh, that lady will never. There's nothing. She'll never be whole again.
Mm-hmm.
Her whole life has been changed because of what he did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know what to call. You're right. I don't have a I for on this show when if I don't know if people have figured it out, but my wife doesn't want me to say like fuck that person, behead them or any of that shit. So what I say is I'd put them in a rocket and shoot them to Pluto. That's
Yeah.
kind of like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think for those, my wife probably doesn't think that that's bad, but for me, I'm like, yeah, send them to
Yeah.
Pluto. I can't wait till that shit runs out of
That's,
oxygen and they're done,
yeah. That's so funny.
motherfucker.
Yeah. And I've never had the good fortune to meet your wife, and hopefully someday I will. And I'm sure I would love her to death. I am
I
fully,
like them. I like the moral code of religion. I just don't. I don't like closing the door to life and death. I want my kids to be able to ponder it. It's the richest pondering I've done.
yeah. And I think that is, I like that, so memento mori, people say, well, gosh, you want to teach your kids a fascination with death. And the reason that's on there is the fascination with life. It's a call to remember the fact that, that this ride ends, at some point, and that we've got this continual gift. And it goes back to those conversations of being proactive versus being reactive, right? If I take that, and that's the whole Stoic philosophy behind this, as far as I understand it, is that, if you remember the fact that you have limited time, then you're more intentional about what you use your energy on, what you allow your thoughts to wander on, what you spend your time on, who you spend your time with. You're intentional around life. And that is the whole thing. And so the religious part of that, and I've gotten, some of the private schools that I've gotten to run have been religious based. And I think I'm with you. The moral code, I am a huge fan. I think we have lost that culturally, is again one of the multifaceted reasons that we've kind of gone down this road of confusion as a culture and society, is we've really lost that moral code. We've eradicated that. So I like that too, but I do believe we strip our young people of some really valuable conversations and thought exercises. Everybody's religion is correct, right? But everybody's vastly different. If I've got friends who are Buddhists, I've got friends who are Mormon, I've got friends who are evangelical Christian, I've got friends who are Jews. I have friends that are Muslim. I don't think I have as many, but I do know I have some, right? All of them are correct, right? Well, that can't be true. They're not all inherently correct on every single thing. They all vastly disagree, but then they'll tell their kids, look, this is the answer. And I'm not opposed to parents saying, hey, look, this is a black and white in our house. That becomes an interesting conversation in and of itself.
But they do all possess a moral code that's supposed to help you navigate life. So
I would rather
I don't know if it's to eternal life or to happiness or what, but it is a moral code, and it's nice living by those people.
It is
it's nice having a bunch of Mormon neighbors. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right. And so I almost wonder if we can't, we try to do this as much as possible in our house, and we can probably do a better job of it, but go, look, this is our moral code, right? Those rules, those values that we have hanging on our wall, that is our moral code, but it's not, that is a different thing other than, our belief system around life and death. Those, we can talk about this too, because I'd rather have the conversations with my kids of going, look, here's the evidence that we see. And so this is why we believe what we believe. I also want to understand, I've got a lot of good friends who are LDS, right? I want to understand exactly what it is they believe. And then I want to dive into that evidence too and go, okay, well, they believe this. This is not something I necessarily believe, but what is their evidence around this? And then I want to come to a conclusion. Either I go, okay, well, that's better evidence than I've got, or I don't think that necessarily holds up to scrutiny. So I'm going to go ahead and maintain my position. I want to proactively walk through those kind of things with my kids so that they learn to look at everything from that same lens, including what we're saying we believe as a family. Because what's the harm in that? Either they're going to come to the same conclusion, or they're going to go, Dad, because again, we've got that open line of communication. They're going to go, Dad, I talked to Johnny over here, right? He's a Scientologist, just using that because it's so freaking out there for me, but he's a Scientologist, but here's the evidence. Let's dive into this together. I would rather have them maintain that curiosity. They're either going to come to agree with what I'm agreeing on, or they're going to show me better evidence, and maybe we're going to move over there together and we'll have great conversations and, the thought process. And then when they actually decide to make a decision on what they believe, they will own that to a much higher level. I can ask most religions, I can ask them I know enough about their religions that I can ask them some questions that'll make them very uncomfortable because they don't necessarily have the answers because their system hasn't allowed them to explore certain things. And then, instead of going to explore it, they usually get pissed at me for bringing it up. That's kind of the nature of the beast. But I think we do a disservice to our people just not allowing for questions. And so that's how we look at it in our house, is like, look, here's what we believe. Here's kind of our evidence around that. But I want my kids to explore all of those, not explore them like I want to dabble in it, but explore them like ask questions of it and research and come to their own conclusions on that. I don't think that's a dangerous proposition.
It's interesting. I'll tie this back to the people who to conflating their thoughts with reality. The Bible has all sorts of shit like that confuses people.
Mm.
Like there's I'm going to screw this up. I know someone's going to get mad at me, but there's this saying in the Bible that a rich man going to heaven is like a camel going through the eye of a needle,
Uh-huh.
meaning that none of that shit you own is yours and you're not taking it with you. And yet one of the commandments is don't steal. Well, don't steal is built on the presupposition that there's ownership. Well, we already know that there's no ownership. So the stealing thing keeps you one level away from reality. There's no such thing as stealing. If you believe in stealing as a reality, you're fucking crazy. But most people cannot fucking understand that. It's built on something that's called ownership. Ownership is also not real. These are things we fucking agreed upon just to make society work. Am I against them? No, not in the least. Totally against. I'm totally for ownership and stealing. It doesn't make them real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an agreed upon concept.
Yeah,
Like
but yet, and so then now, if I take stealing, that rule don't steal is for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me to project onto you. It's my moral code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when I project it onto you, anyway, you see what I'm kind of trying to draw here, and there becomes this. None of that's even explained to the kids when they give them. That's why there's so many batshit crazy religious people, because they're taking their moral code and trying to project it onto other people,
onto everybody else.
Yeah, it's like, dude,
right. And
what
then
are you
again,
doing?
if you try to,
you've broken your code. That should be the first code in all the religions. Don't project this shit onto other people.
Yeah, well, and that absolutely should be open to having the conversations. That's great. Don't project it, and it's like an automatic. Again, it's the same thing as the politics. It's the same thing as anything else. If you're using it as you either agree with me or we're at odds, well, then
Right.
you're that talk about intellectual laziness. That's about as lazy as it gets. That's the issue. And then again, when you start diving deep into some of this stuff, like even those direct translations of the so-called 10, this is a place where it pisses people off. 10 commandments. Well, it doesn't translate into commandments. It's like suggestions and ways to live. Like doesn't actually directly translate into commandment. There's no Hebrew word for obey, right?
Wow.
There is no Hebrew word for obey. So like that doesn't exist. It's not commandments. It's kind of like these suggestions and prescriptions for living is more of the direct translation, right? And so any of those 10, they're not even translated really appropriately. So you're taking it and spinning it to make it exactly what you want it, projecting it on somebody else. And if somebody disagrees with you, well, then you're pissed at them and they're your enemy. I'm sure I got people pissed. I'll probably get people in my DMs just from saying this right here. Which is fine. Again, I'm always open to conversations, but people will come at me like, screw you because you said this. And I grew up always learning it as this. And so now we're enemies. And that's where we are.
And I'll throw this on there for anyone who gives a shit. The real reason why stealing is bad, there's only one reason. And for those of you selfish, egotistical, arrogant people like myself, you'll love this reason. You never want to have to guard a thought. And so when you steal something, that means you've done something in your mind that's wrong and you have to guard that thought. So if I'm at Matt's house and I eat his last apple and then he comes in the room and he's like, where's that apple? I'm like, I don't know. Now part of my headspace is taken because I stole something and I have to guard that lie around it. And that's the worst thing that can happen to you in your entire life. That's why I tell people you should never smoke cigarettes, not because smoking's bad for you, but then the rest of your life, you'll have this little nagging, I want to do more nicotine. I want to do more nicotine like I have. It sucks. You don't want anything in your headspace. You want to be free.
So
guard a lie. It sucks,
so
right?
So
you want to be free.
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, that's what
I don't have to guard anything from anyone.
That's if you aren't in that headspace with that kind of peace of mind, then yeah, you are encaged. You are the elephant that's tied to the post that thinks he can't pull it away because he was trained as a young kid that he can't pull away from the post, right? You are that elephant if you're not in that specific headspace, for sure. The stealing so I'm just wrapping my wheels are spinning, especially around this evil thing. So you come over, you steal an apple, and cool. What if you come over and you steal a kid?
Yeah. Man, I just hate to say this because of my wife, but and I want to obey her, but yeah, those people can't exist. Those people cannot exist. You cannot take someone's kid, and and you should expect. I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised more people haven't been hurt in retaliation for some of the stuff that's been done to our kids.
Yeah.
I'm really, really, really surprised that kids were given vaccines without their parents being told, who are 12 years old. I can't believe I'm not saying it's right, but I can't believe some of those people weren't offed. As a parent, if someone did, I was walking in Africa one time and there was this big pile of trees. I've told this story, and I'm in this neighborhood that has no objects. I'm in a village that has no objects. By no objects, I mean everything's handmade. Their bowls are handmade. Everyone lives in teepees. There's no food there. I mean, there's not a single store there. They don't deal in currency, nothing. And I'm there shooting this documentary, and I'm walking with these 5 kids, and there's this big pile of trees. And I asked one of the kids, I'm like, through the translator, I'm like, hey, what happened? What are all these trees doing here? And they go, oh, there's a lady under there. I go, there's a lady under there. And they go, yeah, dead lady. And I go, what happened? A lady walked up on a fucking elephant that was with its baby. The elephant grabbed the lady, beat her with its trunk to the ground and killed her. She's dead. Wow. And then pushed all the trees in the area on top of her to make sure she didn't come back to life and get away.
Wow.
That's how I feel about anyone who threatens my kids.
Yep.
It's I want to turn you into ashes. Yep. I don't want any remnants of you. Nope. I don't even Mom, I mean, I give myself the chills saying that, but like, I don't want any remnants of you. So I hear you. Is that like this Cain Velasquez thing. I mean, you touched his daughter. It's like, dude, you like,
I know
you kind of get and like he shot your dad. And I'm kind of like, I'm really not a vigilante guy, but I'm kind of like, so what?
Kind of get it. Yep.
Yeah. Like you shouldn't have been hanging out with this dude who's touched someone's daughter. Like,
yeah. So I get it. So that's where
you better not even look at someone's daughter. You don't even look at someone's daughter. Don't someone's 14-year-old daughter's there, shake their hand, make eye contact with them once and get the fuck away from them. Like, dude.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I hear you.
So that's where it's that,
Yeah. That's gotta be some biological thing in us.
I would imagine.
It doesn't feel.
I would imagine. I think that elephant's a prime example. I mean, my mom. So my mom just moved out here.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Super cool, man. Yeah. Thank you. And so I actually drove her car out here. Drove her car out here for her. She's been here like a week. Right. So she went to go walk around her neighborhood, and she's kind of checking out the new digs and on her first day. And she comes back and she's like, yeah, I met a really nice lady that lives down the street. And she told me to be careful walking down this specific trail because there's some deer over there, and the deer have babies. So she was out walking her dog, and the deer came out of the woods and just started stomping on the dog.
On your mom's dog or your neighbor's dog?
Her neighbor. Yeah, her neighbor.
Oh, wow.
Story. And so again, that's that biological. Like, I mean, deer usually see humans or see anything, and they're frightened. They run. But this deer had baby nearby, and it was just like, nope, this thing looks like a threat, and I'm going to stomp it out. So I think that is a very much a bio, dude. Same. Anything comes near my babies, I'm stomping it out, and not feeling bad about it for a second. I'm not thinking twice.
I used to take spiders outside. I don't take spiders outside anymore.
Yeah,
I kill spiders. Yeah. Since I had kids, I kill spiders.
Yeah. That's so. Yeah, totally.
Crickets. I pick crickets up and take them outside.
Yeah.
But I used to get a glass jar and take the spider outside. Now it's like, nope, you're dead.
No,
I don't spray pesticide around my house, but the rules have changed.
Yeah. It's so funny, huh? So funny how that works. My wife, I was inside the house the other, a couple weeks ago, I guess, not the other day, but 2-3 weeks ago. And she calls me and she's like, oh my God, there's a huge snake out here. You got to get out of here. And it's attacking it. And I couldn't really understand what she's saying. I'm like, it's going after a what? And she's like, it's going into the, it had gotten stuck trying to go in the chicken coop. And so, but I was like, I thought she was talking kids or whatever. And, and at our house in California, my little boy was like around 4 and he's like, oh, Dad, look at this. And he had a rattler kind of cornered that was gearing up. So
shit.
Rattler's got to go. I had to go sleep. I had to go sleepy nights. And so I'm just picturing this other, same thing. I'm like, oh shit. But Same thing. I mean, obviously, as long as the kids are okay, now we'll have a conversation around what you're doing and where you're going to go. But if it's hurting the kiddos, it's got to go bye-bye.
Tying this into the fear thing and projecting on your kids, there's this, I talked to so there's this correlate, and I don't have a lot of studies for this, but just my own personal anecdotal. The coolest kids I've ever met, now I'm starting to realize, are the ones who got their cell phone the latest and the ones that are homeschooled.
Yep.
They're the ones, they're the adults who they're the kids who make eye contact. They know how to talk to adults. They have friends of the widest variety of ages. They know how to interact with my kids. They know how to interact with me. And but it's also these kids who didn't get cell phones till they're 15, 16, 17. And anytime I talk to parents about that, everyone like agrees with me. And they're like, but you need to get it for safety, or, but you get it and you put this blocker on it so it can't do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm doing the cell phone for my kid till like old.
Yep. I agree. I'm not doing it. No, you're right. So it's the whole, because I also show family, we build these schools, but I've got a lot of families that'll reach out and they'll go, hey, look, the schools, there's no schools anywhere near me. And so my first question is, okay, well, if you've got kids, like, do you want me to show you how to build one? And if that's no, that's not the desire, no, or there's no ability, whatever the circumstance, they say, but I'm going to homeschool. I don't know how to do that. We help people do that as well, right?
Yeah, and you have a new program, by the way, that's coming.
Yeah, yep, and we're doing that too. I'm kind of putting all of that under the Apogee umbrella as well to show families how to do that, right?
Yeah.
One of the big questions, one of the biggest myths.
You're launching the home education parenting course.
Yeah.
And when does that come out?
My tech squad, we've got everything filmed, PDFs are created. We've got a workplace group that's set up where we're going to have the families they'll be able to come in and get weekly support. I'll literally give them the projects, the conversations, things I'm having with my own kids every single month, and support them. So that'll all start in September, but we'll launch the first membership. Tech team is saying we'll be able to launch it this week, probably.
And cool. What's the website for that?
So it'll be under the apogeestrong.com website. It's right now we just have the young men's mentorship, but we'll have the links to the Educating Modern Day Heroes homeschool course too.
I was so excited to see you're doing this. So excited.
It's because it's the fear, right? The parents are like, I don't know how to do this. I'm worried that I'm going to screw up my kids. I'm worried around, which is the irony. I always tell them that's the irony of the whole thing, right? Is like, I'm worried that, I went through this conveyor belt program. Now I feel inadequate. And so instead of being able to educate my own kids, I'm going to put them back through that same conveyor belt schooling system that left me feeling inadequate enough to raise my own kids, right? It's this irony, that cycle.
Yes.
Like, holy shit, like if that doesn't tell you something. So some of the biggest fears, one of them is around that whole socialization, right?
Yes.
Oh God, but what if my kids aren't socialized? And gosh, man, it's such what you said, looking people in the eye and shaking hands and having those conversations. The majority of the time, if parents are intentional, it's those kids that are home educated that are far more comfortable doing that. We sold some goats a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Sold some goats. The guy drove over here, drove his trailer under the ranch and gets them all ready to go. And I was gathering up the goats that we were selling him and getting them ready to move into his trailer. And so my 9-year-old went over and she greeted him as he came to the gate. She went over, opened the gate for him, and he came through and she's like, hey, how you do? My name is Brielle, shook his hand. And she's like, so, dad's over there getting the goats. She said, I've got the bill of sale right here. So you'll sign here. I'm going to take a picture of it. We'll keep that as our receipt. You keep this as your receipt. And then it'll be X amount of cash. And he's like, okay. And so he signed it. She took a picture. She's like, okay, great. It's however much it was. It was like, $800, $900, something like that. And he's like, okay. And she's like, and it's okay. You can give me the cash. She's like, I can give it to you. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. And it was like, so we got done and he's like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, that's normal for us. That's not a weird thing. It's just normal. She's not
9. She's 9, right?
But she's 9. Yep. But that's normal. Like, that's just what we do. And it's what we've always done. They've run multiple businesses. They've negotiated business deals over the phone. They've done all these things. So it's just, again, you normalize what you normalize, right? So Do you want that for your socialization? Or do you want, again, the young kids who are around a bunch of other young kids who are being taught gender's not a real thing, sadness and fear are the virtues, follow the directions here, look down at your cell phone at all time. You're going to be distracted by these screens and getting bombarded by a weird culture. You're going to be distracted by a bunch of medications that we're going to give you early and often, especially for the young men. We have this habit now of looking at kids in school and going, oh, this 5-year-old young boy has a methamphetamine deficiency, so we better get him on something really, really like,
oh, I
shit.
never heard it like that. That's so poignant. Oh my goodness.
Like, we're distracting our kids, and you're worried about my kids being socialized. It's bananas. So we just want to help families like get around there's the cultural myths that we've been indoctrinated into. We've been talking about religion. School is a religion in our country. And so we want to just get out of those religious myths around it, man. So I couldn't agree with you more. The cell phones just aren't happening. If you're really concerned about safety, well, then cool. Here's your deal. So we've got 20 acres right now, right, on our ranch. My kids are so 11, 9, 6. They want to go run off. They want to go into the pasture. We've got 5 acres in the back that are just straight up woods in the mountains with creeks and little waterfalls and everything that else that lives there, snakes and falling trees. And there's all that stuff that's back there. So they can go explore back there all they want. They know what our property line is and they can go get at it. Now, do I want them to be able to contact me if they are a legitimate trek away and something happens and somebody gets hurt? You bet. Do they need a cell phone? Nope. There's great technology, man. They got watches. They got watches that all those watches can do is they can call the numbers we programmed in. So if you're really just concerned about safety and you want, great, get them something like that. Because you know what? There's nothing else on there for them. So they're not distracted by that all day. They're not being bombarded by other bullshit. They're not on social media. They just have the ability to call. So, parents use excuses to allow them to feel a little better about all the other baggage that comes along with that bullshit.
And what are you taking away from your kid when you put that on him? Let's just explore this for a second. I put that watch on my kid. I've seen it. Sounds benign, but now all of a sudden your kid knows he's tethered to your parent. What are the ramifications of that? Is that good? Is that bad?
For sure.
Oh, your kid's getting EMF rays in his wrist or whatever the fuck those are. I don't even know if they're real, but it seems to be all the thing that. So everything that it's like the thing with I'm all for the discussion of getting rid of guns. But I haven't heard one person who's talked about the discussion of getting guns telling me what the ramifications are. Because all they say is, well, if there were no guns, no one would get shot. Okay, I give you that. But what if we end up like Australia and they build camps and people have to be put in them for a month? Sorry, can't do that.
Yeah.
Like no, it's the same thing with like the quarantine. No one discussed what the ramifications were of that. They just did it because they're only thinking 1-to-1 ratio of what the implications are. It's like, I like this idea of the watch, but how about we discuss like the 10 other, like maybe it's better for a kid that he doesn't feel it. Maybe instead of going 20 acres away, he'll only go 8 because he doesn't have the watch.
Maybe. Yep. That's it.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like we got to talk. Are we hurting people or helping them?
Well, and the point is that the parents will look at that and they'll use cell phone as this is safe.
Because of their own fear. Sorry. One thing, Matt, we're projecting our own fear onto our kids.
Projecting our own fear and our own convenience onto them. 100%. Because it's not really ever usually about safety. It's about, that's what they say to make it sound like a more responsible decision. It's what they say to justify it and try to make it sound logical. So they say that, when the reality is they're doing it because they're afraid their kid's going to get mad at them if they say no. They're afraid the parent next door is going to judge them for not parenting correctly. They're afraid, right? So they'll use it's for safety, even if there's a million other options, even just to get around the safety side, right? They spin the whole story, which is usually a crock of shit, and they won't let themselves really identify what it is they're actually doing and just be honest about that. So you're absolutely right. No, cell phones are not happening for us for a long time. And I'm very, very happy with that. But the medication's not happening for us either. Video games is another area that I think is wildly distracting and damaging, especially to young guys. I'm not.
It's amazing when you someone liked your Carlos Romero liked your meth deficiency line, and
Sure.
Jeff Birchfield wrote something here. Reminds me of when I went to pick up a guy in my granddad's truck to take him across their ranch to look at bulls when I was 9. Yeah. I mean, that's my nephews live on ranches in Texas, and that's the kind of shit they do. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids catching rattlesnakes, driving trucks, driving tractors.
That's right.
And it's funny, people think that, and they're the most responsible. They waking up and putting a gun on their hip.
Yep.
As a 10-year-old boy to go out
Right.
because there's fucking all sorts of wild animals out there. It's
Yep.
crazy. And it's and they're so capable. If I had a daughter, I'd want them to date my nephews.
That's right. And and capable is the word, right? They're capable and they're competent.
Yeah.
So they're confident. So they're not even really, they get less and less attracted. The more capable and confident they get, the less attracted they are to other distractions and bullshit, because it's just not interesting. There's the whole, we got to send them to, I got to send my kids to school because they got to learn, that there's bad people out there. And so that's the place for them to get. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, if you want to level up your own life, you don't go to prison and hang out so that you can go, well, look, there's all these bad people. I guess I better get used to them. And that's how somehow my life is going to get better. No, you go hang around people that are doing better things than you, that you have something to learn from. Like, you go level that stuff up. Well, our young kids are the same thing. So you have them do things like get in there and drive the buggy, get in there and drive the car around here, get in there and go explore, get in there and do all those things that build the resilience and the confidence, so that when they see ridiculous stuff later on, they're just not even interested. And they look at it for what it is. It's ridiculous. It's not something I want. Not like, well, I grew up when the people were idiots that I grew up with. And so no, again, it doesn't follow logic. It follows our indoctrination.
What do you think about that? I have some strong opinions about this next thing I'm gonna bring up. What do you think about the Jew parents and the black parents telling their kids? I bring up the Jews and the blacks because that's their common. All the Jew kids I know and all the black kids I know grew up like this. They're including my wife, who's Ashkenazi. The parents tell you the world's out to get you. For some reason, the Jew parents and the black parents think that's a good thing to tell your kid. Hey, you're gonna have to work 10 times as hard. Everyone's out to get you. That's how LA Jews are brought up. That's how black kids all across this country are brought up. Hey, everyone's out to get you. And I'm like, what the fuck? My parents didn't tell me no one told me, hey, Sevan, when you're 16, you're going to go to school one day and kids are going to start making fun of your nose. Just so you know, your sophomore year, that shit's going to grow in and everything's going to turn fucking upside down. I'm so glad my parents didn't tell me that shit. I'm glad someone had to make fun of my nose and I came home that day and looked in the mirror. I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? You know what I mean? Trying to look from the side of I don't approve of that, warning your kids that they're like giving them it's a false warning. The parents projecting their shit onto them.
They're projecting it. They don't know.
Yeah, you're projecting your shit onto the kid. Now the kid has to walk around and be like, hey, I'm a Jew and everyone hates me. How the fuck is that good?
That's your mindset going. That's the problem, right? Is the mindset. Because you go in, and again, fear is the virtue in that point, right? Like the victim is the virtue. So you are virtuous and better than others because you're walking around knowing that you have that fear in the back of your mind that's quote unquote protecting you, or that fear is keeping you safe. It's exactly what it is the start of that victim mindset. That's exactly what it is, right? And so I think that's a horrible place. And look, I get, we'll have both sides that'll go, look, well, here are the reasons we're saying that are because of the systemic so-and-so. That itself is a separate conversation. That's a separate conversation. If you want to talk about systemic things, there's things you can probably, speak to that bolster the point. And then there's some things that I think are thrown out there that are provably incorrect. And I'm talking for both communities there. I think that's a whole separate conversation. Taking your
but they could have made up anything. You can make up anything. Someone could have said to me, hey, Sevan, when you're 16, your nose is going to grow in and it's going to have superpowers. And that girls are going to be just throwing the pussy at you. Like someone could have told me that. So be careful. And I would have believed that too. And so why tell a Jew kid or a black kid that something like the victim might, why not tell them some other shit? Hey, just so you know, I mean, you could tell them anything. Why tell them that shit?
That's the point,
right?
Is that you've got that blank canvas. Why not fill them with things that are powerful, that are wonderful, that are going to keep them curious, that are going to keep them strong so that when they do at some point encounter crazy stuff, it's not something that they're like, ooh, oh, see, I knew that was coming. I was told that was coming. And oh my God, here it is. And it's probably going to be bad. Or they'll just look at it and go, okay, well, that's ridiculous. Like it won't phase them because they've got a different mindset. I don't know what you've told. I think that is the antithesis.
You tell a black kid, hey, white people aren't going to like you and they're going to be mean to you. Then when you're walking down the street and a white person crosses the street, you think, oh, they walked away from me because they didn't like me. But if you never told that black kid that, they would never come up with that.
Nope, they wouldn't. They wouldn't come up
They'd
with.
never ever come up with that.
Nope, the racism wouldn't be a thing. People going, oh, the other race, like that's not a thing. People don't.
It'd be just some guy across the street. That's
people don't inherently have that. People, I mean, we've had young kids. I've worked with enough young kids. They don't even see it unless you bring it up, unless culture brings it up, unless somebody brings it up. They genuinely don't see the fact that other people look different. And people say, well, that's not okay either. We should notice the differences. And shut the fuck. Kids just look and they go, that's another human being. They go, that's another human being.
Hey, that guy's missing a leg. What happened to him? I don't know. Go over and ask him.
Go talk to him. They don't
go
care
ask him.
If somebody's a different color. They don't care if somebody's a different height. They don't care. Hey, they inherently just go, that's a boy or a girl. They don't go, I wonder what gender that kid identifies as. None of those things. Those are all adult issues that we're throwing in on these young people.
Yeah, geez Louise, that's the exact same thing too. You got a parent who, I don't care if they're white, black, or Chinese. You may have a black parent tell you, hey, all black people are thugs. You may have a white parent tell you they're white kids, all black people are thugs. It's the same thing. I agree. The color thing is just an example. It's not, there's nothing.
All black people are thugs, all white people are racist, or all of that is just garbage. And it's not, just like the inherent state, the natural state of a human is genius. The natural values and virtues that we have too I believe are inherently good. We look at other people and assume.
So we are good. We are good, right? Inherently.
I think we inherently look at other people and have, love and want to connect with that other person inherently. I don't think we inherently want to go the other way from anybody else, which tells me, do we inherently want relationships? So we inherently value another human being. I think that is our natural state.
I would love to. I spend a lot. Have you been to Africa?
I have not. No, sir. I know Khalifa's on his way like next week.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time over there in areas for those of you who don't know, and by Africa, I don't mean Egypt or South Africa, where I mean places where I'm the only white person.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating what can happen to your whole brain will make these huge shifts. There's this movie. I wish I could think of this movie. You would fucking love this movie, Matt. They take these kids from the Baltimore ghetto and they take them to Kenya. It's a documentary. It won the Academy Award. Boys of Barack. No. Maybe someone will say it in the comments. They take these. I was going to say, what's crazy is you take a white kid like me from fucking Walnut Creek, California, and you take me to Africa, and within a week, everything recalibrates. I watch my whole brain just shift on how I think about the entire world, just for survival reasons. It was just fascinating. But they take these kids, these 20 black kids from the ghettos in Baltimore, and they take them to Kenya. Dude, everything about them changes. The way they walk, the way they talk, their vernacular, the semantics, everything changes. They put them in a fucking no electricity, no modern shit area, and they just send them there. There it is. Yes, Boys of Baraka. This movie is fucking
Boys of Baraka.
Yeah, this movie is so crazy good, and it just shows you that we can all just be recalibrated and reprogrammed. We're just fucking sheets of paper.
We sure can.
We just erased and rewritten our shit.
God, that's such an exciting thing, right? And
yes.
Again,
we're always in control of changing our story. Always in control.
Changing that. So what then an honor it is as parents to get to write that original programming, right? To make that start at such a higher level. Like what an honor that is that you have 3 young humans that you get to start that programming wherever it is. And eventually you want to hand over the keys to that car so that they're doing the reprogramming themselves, right? And that they have, but dude, you get to establish that baseline. Are you kidding me? What a privilege, right?
Yep.
What a privilege. And there's no perfect parents. But what I always say is, no, there is no such thing as perfect parent, but our standard should always remain perfection. We should always be attempting. You should be attempting to be a perfect husband, attempting to be the perfect father. You'll never get it. Of course,
Yes, I agree.
You lower that standard, right? Because you're doing them a service by doing so. Like, that's so freaking exciting to be able to have, you know, that privilege and that honor as a father. I love that, man. Have you read Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman?
No.
I'm a huge fan of that one. I had Todd on the podcast too, and he talked to the young guys of Apogee, and it's all around, you know, kind of that reprogramming, you know, sort of mentality. And we went into the whole, like, have you seen Split? That M. Night Shyamalan movie about the dissociative identity disorder?
Oh.
Where the guy's got like 23 personalities or something. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay.
Sounds scary.
So it's kind of a cool, you know, it's one of the M. Night Shyamalan ones. So there's like a little twist on it. I won't give anything away, but you know, it's the whole, like, the guy's got dissociative identity disorder, right? Or multiple personality disorder. And so he's got these 23 different personalities. And so, you know, a couple of them are doing some evil things in the movie. But yeah, that's the book, man. And so what struck me when I watched that movie, and it's kind of set me down this rabbit hole, was this guy oscillates in between all these different personalities, and each one has a different agenda and all these things they're trying to do. But there are all these physical manifestations that take place in it too, right? So he's like a 9-year-old boy at some point, and so when he's in that body, even though he's a grown man, when he's in the 9-year-old boy frame of mind, he has 9-year-old strength too, right? Like, he can't, like, these girls are pushing back on the door and he can't push it, even though he's just a much bigger dude. He also switches into this one that's kind of like a beast sort of thing, and he can climb on a freaking wall, right? He has this like superhuman ability because he believes in this sort of deal. And one of the parts of the movie that was super, super brief, but it's really the part that set me down the rabbit hole. They're playing a videotape and he's going through some of these other personalities of his. And one of his personalities has type 1 diabetes and has to take insulin.
Oh,
and
shit.
the them don't. Right. So that sent me down this rabbit hole of like, is the mind really that powerful, where somebody that has this actually has physiological changes that accompany the mind, you know, the mind shift? And I started finding these studies, and one in particular of somebody that had a severe allergy. I want to say it was to like oranges or something, where they break out in hives and rashes in one identity. And then as they moved into the other identity, the hives would just clear up like that, because that identity didn't have the reaction.
Crazy.
What the hell? So when we start to look at the mind as being as powerful as it is, again, that's just all the more honor and privilege and duty we have as a parent, or as anybody that works with young people, period, to do whatever you can to protect that inherent genius, to protect the inherent love of other people, and of that love of learning, and the desire to grow and to know more and do more and be more and think more. Like, that's there. So we've got to not only protect that, but nurture that and open as many doors as possible to get the best manifestation of whatever that young person can be. And so Todd does a really good job of diving into how he's worked with like athletes and entertainers and all this stuff to kind of develop these other identities, where they'll step into these other mindsets and frames and roles to go accomplish something else. And it's a fascinating book. And I think it's one that's really good for parents. Honestly, I think it's a phenomenal book for parents.
When I was younger, in my 20s, and I was having these aspirations to be an ascetic. I wanted to be like Jesus. I wanted to be like the Buddha. I wanted to be those people. I wanted to be that good. Yeah. I wanted to be that still. I wanted to know that stillness, that passion. I quickly realized that it's easy if you throw away the world. If I go lock myself in a room or sit under a tree, it's easy to become Christ-like. It's easy to become Buddha-like. But when the hardest people to interact with, if you want to do that, are your parents. They're the super mirrors of yourself. And so I started realizing if you think you're enlightened, go hang out with your parents and you'll quickly realize you're just a fucking 5-year-old dipshit still.
That's so funny.
So many people in raising kids, our relationships with our wife and our parents seem so important to me.
Yeah.
It seems like where I'm going to do most of my fucking teaching, and not like direct one-to-one teaching, but it's where they're going to see the way I treat my mom and how the relationship I have with my mom in front of them. I understand my wife because it's how they're going to pick their mate, right? I understand. But with my mom, it's something I think what I'm doing is I'm investing in my relationship with them in the future. So the more time I can spend with my mom and my dad in front of them and be a good son, whatever that means, that's as intellectually lazy as evil. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that? On the importance of like, because I noticed you had your mom move out, and that's like the great, like my mom lives near me too. So I try to see her every day with my kids around. I want my kids to see me with my mom.
Yeah. It's a treasure. I don't think it stops there. I think it is your relationship with anyone and anything. It's not just, you're right. Yes. The relationship with your wife, it shows my relationship with my wife, shows my daughters what a man should do in a relationship and how he should treat a woman. It shows my son how he should treat a woman, right? It shows them those things. I always say your kids will do what you do before they do what you say, right? You leading by example. You are the example of what they're going to do first. Whether they think through things and decide to change that example later, they may, but right. That is the default setting for them, right? That is the initial inner voice. Everybody's got that inner voice. Well, it starts out, it's your parents' voice, and it's based on what you saw your parents do and how you saw them act and behave, right? So yes, that relationship with the spouse matters. I agree with you. The relationship with your parents, and them watching that, you're investing in that future relationship with your kids as the father. But your relationship with work, your relationship with spirituality and religion, your relationship with food, your relationship with money, and how you talk about and tackle finances, your relationships with people and with entities are the baseline for their mindset around those very things. And so that's why the standard's got to remain perfection, because you're going to, if your relationships with all those things are great, but you're like, God, money never is, money doesn't grow on trees. It's so hard to come by. We'll never be able to afford anything. There's never enough money. The bills are always lined up. You are setting that foundation for them as well. Right.
Meaning that's what they're going to want to replicate. Oh, that's my dad. Money drives him crazy, and he's always complaining about being poor. I'm gonna take that on as part.
Yep. Money is scarce. Money is hard to come by. Money is something that causes grief in life. Money is something, right? So you're setting the baseline for all of that. So your relationship with people and those things all matter greatly.
It's a, do you think you're always working on yourself too? You're motivated to work on yourself because of your kids?
Yeah. All the time. All the time. All the time. I know, all the time. And I know I still have areas where I struggle. And of course I still have areas where I mess stuff up, and 100%, but it's always as intentional as I can. Yeah. Break that cycle. That's the whole point, is breaking those cycles.
And you didn't have the ideal relationship with your father, as I recall.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely correct.
And so those are cycles you have to break.
100%. 100%. And it's always interesting to watch, because I got siblings too. And they had the same father. And so it's interesting to see what cycles have been broken, what cycles have not, who's holding on to certain things, who's not. It's weird. It's interesting to see that play out. But yeah, that's definitely a cycle that I had to break and not repeat those things. And the cycle of, the whole cycle of forgiveness and all that stuff. I hope he's doing very well. I wish nothing bad for him whatsoever. And I talk about him with my kids, and they understand why they don't ever see him. So I want to be very, very intentional about that. But yeah, it's breaking those cycles, man.
You had mentioned Ben. I want to give people some practical stuff here. You had mentioned Ben Greenfield earlier, and about how he experiments with his life, and I really, really respect people who experiment with their lives. I had Nathaniel Nolan on, and he's the guy who has the TikTok fame from he walks on his hands 30 minutes a day. He walks like a dog 30 minutes a day. And he's done it, and he's doing it every day for 365 days. He's almost there, and it's crazy. He shows you how it's changed his body, how he moves. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a trainer, but it's crazy what 30 minutes of practice of walking on all four. I mean, I started doing it with my kids. I'm gonna have them walk on all fours like at least every other day, traversing different stuff. Yeah, it's completely. And I've always said that crawling is the holy grail of fitness, and you should never encourage your child to walk. Let them crawl till they're fucking 18 if you can, because once they stand up, they're never going back.
It's over.
You have your whole, you're done. You're done.
It's interesting, man. I don't want to interrupt, but Steve Maxwell, like a fitness OG. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, real handsome buff guy to the stars. That guy.
Steve. So Steve Maxwell is like an OG. He's like 70. I want to say he's like 75. Maybe he's one of the first like kettlebell guys. He might have been the first like American Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I mean, he's just this OG of fitness. But I talked to him not that long ago, and he was saying something similar.
That guy's 70.
Steve Maxwell is like 74, maybe 73. I don't know, man. He's in his 70s.
Oh my goodness, he looks good.
He's a stud, man. He is, and he's the same thing. Was talking about crawling, and he's like, man, I crawl all day. I crawl all day, every day. He's like, I think it's something that people are vastly missing out on. Yeah, that's Steve. Yep, that's him. He's a stud, man. He is a stud. That guy. So
I need to get 3 people on. I'm gonna get Steve Maxwell on. I'm gonna get Tom Herman, and I'm gonna try to get Laura or Jeff Sandifer.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're hooking me up. Okay, awesome. So the other day. So one of my kids is always touching his face, and he always has dirt on his face. And I'm always wiping his face. I'm a huge proponent that every time we leave the car, I wipe their face and tie their hair up and fix their clothes, because I want them to present. I want the world to treat them nicely. It doesn't mean they can't get dirty. I don't care if afterwards they spill mustard on themselves or go roll around dirt. I just try to make it. And so this one kid always has fucking dirt on his face, always out of his nose, everything. And it just started like about a month ago. Yeah. And so for 29 days straight, 350 times a day, I'm telling him, dude, you've got to stop touching your face. And after 29 days of that, I'm making this all up, by the way. The spirit of it's true. After 29 days of it, I told myself 2 days ago, every time, because this is what life's about, experimenting. Every fucking time I want to tell him, wipe your face, I'm switching it. I'm going to tell him I love him. Fuck it.
That's awesome.
Just flipping the script. Yep. So now I tell him 50 times a day, Ari, I love you. And it's like, it's so much better. And then I just wipe his face. It's so much better.
Yep.
I just flipped the script. I'm like, I'm not having fun doing this.
So rad, dude.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not enjoying telling this 5-year-old to keep wiping it. I'll go over and wipe his fucking face. He'll figure it out. The other kids don't do it. Like, chill the fuck out. Stop projecting onto him.
Yes, he will. That's awesome.
How about just if I'm going to project something onto him, how about just project I love him? I put my hand up his shirt when I tell him that, and my other hand up his back, and I squeeze his little torso. Tell him he's yummy. Tell him he smells like fucking banana bread. You know, just
that's awesome.
So much better. That's so awesome, much better, right? And the experiment's done. I'm done. I'm done being a bitch, a whiny, complaining bitch, and now he's getting loved.
It's a win. It's a win-win.
Yeah, everything's healthy. Yes.
Right. And
we did it.
He needs that, and you need that far more than what you guys needed before. I love the way you're doing that. The best way to, I always tell parents the best way to improve, everything about something for your child is to improve it in yourself first, right? You want to improve their education? Well, improve yours simultaneously, because then again, it goes back to that osmosis, right? If you're consistently like, hey, I make it a priority that I'm going to be in a book and I'm going to have conversations, deep conversations about what I'm reading around those books, because that's how a world-class education actually starts out. It's foundational to a world-class education. And you're doing that, well, then they're going to be more inclined to be like, interesting. Okay. Well, that's what a good adult does, is they prioritize that, that kind of thing. They prioritize reading. It's that. So you improving yourself in that way is improving everything for him. I mean, he's not just hearing from you that he loves you. It's improving how he sees himself. It's improving how he sees you. It's improving his relationships, going forward. And yeah, he will pick up. And by the way, if you're telling him that, there's the whole Pavlovian sort of thing too, where you're like, dude, I love you. And you're wiping his face. You're going to be like, dude, I love you. And he's gonna be like, shit, man, I need a wipe. He's going to pick that up too. I think that's awesome, man.
We can change our program. Let's say you drink too much at parties, but you're not sure if you want to quit drinking. All you have to do is then you just start making rules for yourself. Every time before you drink a beer at a party, when you get there, you have to drink 1 glass of water, and then you can drink a beer. You earned it. And then you want to drink another beer, you got to drink another glass of water. And you can do that every time you want to smoke let's say you smoke cigarettes. You can be like, oh yeah, I can smoke a cigarette, but that requires 10 minutes of riding on the exercise bike. And then I earn 1 cigarette. You can or you can change what words mean, or how you, I reprogram myself. Instead of, I see dirt on his face, and instead of that, the program being, it's time for me to yell at him, it's time for me to say I love him. It's all made up.
That's exactly it.
Why not make up some good shit, right? Why tell the Jew kid that the world's going to hate him? Tell him the world's going to love him. Try flipping the script. Someone steals $100 from you, ask them if they need to borrow another $100 instead of doing what everyone else does and be like, get mad at them. It's your fucking story.
It's your story,
right?
man.
Yeah, it's yours. Try some new shit.
It's the word. It goes back to what we said earlier. Words become thoughts, become belief, become action, become habits, become character. It becomes who you are.
Yeah.
You can shift that anywhere along that ladder of realities. You can shift it. You can shift the words you're using. You can shift the thoughts you're having. You can shift those beliefs. You can shift those actions. You shift those habits. And when you do that, ultimately you end up shifting the character. You end up shifting who you are. One of the books that we have, but we suggest the young men read in Apogee program is Atomic Habits. It's one of the first things we have them. We suggest do hard things first for a very specific reason, and then we suggest Atomic Habits second for a very specific reason. And it's you start to define what your habits are and shift your habits. You reprogram those habits. It reprograms who you are as a human being. So good.
I saw on Miranda's, who I think is opening up a school through you. Yeah, I saw on her Instagram. I was always kind of interested that some people set goals, and I wasn't really a goal person. But then I realized I saw this on her Instagram one time. If you're passionate, there were 3 components. If you were passionate, you had good habits and something else, then it'll guide your life. And I remember thinking, wow, I am all 3 of those things. Not only do I have good habits, but one of my habits is to refine my habits.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's like an important habit to have. You have to keep, especially as you get older. Yeah. You have to be refining your habits as you get older, or else you'll break yourself. There's shit you can't do when you're young, and you have to do when you're old.
That's right. It goes, that's the intentionality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good, man. She's a stud. She's awesome, by the way, which I know everybody knows if they're listening, but she's really good.
Her and her husband, what a crazy, successful business story and a contribution to humanity.
No doubt, man. Yeah. Good folks, man. So I'm excited for them and excited to help them with this next part of the venture too. Good people. Thank you for the introduction, by the way, because I met her through you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
In a way, you're on the front line fighting the war. The war is for, maybe we don't even have to use the word war. You're on the front line of leading society where it's going to go. What do I mean by that? It sounds cheesy when you're a kid, but now that we're older, we know it's true. The kids are our future.
Yeah.
And so what we put into their minds now is what we're going to get. We're going to reap the fruit of it in the future. There's so much hysteria I better look up the definition of that word. There's so much definition of hysteria is a term used colloquially to mean ungovernable emotional excess. Oh, I like that. Okay. There's so much hysteria and lack of sobriety on the front line where you're hanging out, meaning there's people who want to and conflation of thoughts and shit, right? Like if you say, hey, I don't want the gay flag at my kid's elementary school, people think you don't like gays. It's like, no, I fucking love a gay. I would party with gay dudes all day. They fucking rock. I just don't want the flag, a gender, a sex flag, a genitalia flag at the elementary school,
Right.
Straight or gay.
Yep.
How do you stay sober being on the front line of this? How do you stay not get swept into the hysteria?
Yeah. It really
like how do you not become militant?
That's what I have to stop myself from doing that. And people will check me with that anyways, right? Because I see the game that's being played. I see the agendas coming out. And by the way, I saw those years ago and told people, hey, in the next decade, we're going to be talking about, gender ideology with kids. And we're going to be talking about, devaluing the dads and it's not a big deal. We're going to be talking about racism that doesn't actually exist. And we're going to be pushing it on the kids. Like this has kind of been this long tail game. And so I can get stuck in that too, and pointing that out. And I try to always give the caveat of like, look, if you're a good person that's in this, I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking this, sort of system or whatever. But I really just try to shift my energy over to the solution. Because one of the things that I realize is that none of this is going to go away. The, government schooling, conveyor belt schooling, all the hysteria around what we're doing with our young kids, it's not going away. When CrossFit exploded the way it did and created this cultural awareness, Gold's Gym and 24-hour fitness and all, those didn't go away. Right. Those stayed there. There's still it's still there. All of this is going to stay here. So again, memento mori, right, is the fascination of living. I've only got a certain amount of energy. I got a certain amount of time every single day. I can either use it to fight something that's not going away and point the finger, which I will still get sucked into, and I'll just try to do it more tongue in cheek to try to make a point, just to try to get people's wheels spinning. But I spend the majority of my energy on building the alternative, building the new. I understand that's going to create a cultural split. I really believe there's going to be more and more of a split between people who have young people who have had exposure to real education versus people who are just indoctrinated in schooling. I think that split is going to become more and more obvious over the next couple of decades. I don't think we can avoid that. So I will just spend my time getting as many young people on that upward trajectory as I can, and just focus my attention there. I mean, that's really all I can do.
If I were to ask you, does Bigfoot have hair or fur? I'm asking you to partake in my delusion.
And some imagination.
With the presupposition that Bigfoot exists.
Yep.
I feel that way when someone asks me my gender.
Yep.
Because I don't think I have a gender, because I've never once had the thought, I don't do anything because I'm a man.
Right.
I mean, it's not forced upon me. I'm forced to pee out of my penis. I'm not choosing that.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't wake up in the morning with a raging hard on because I'm like, hey, hard on appear. It's not like a card. It's just there.
Yeah.
I accept the fact that some men are attracted to other men the same way I'm attracted to women. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not cognizant of it other than it's happening. Like I can do, if I see a pretty woman and I notice myself to start to get stimulated by it, I could run the other way, or I could like sit with the thought, but though it's happening to me, right? Like when my wife comes into bed, I just feel something turn on inside. The same way if I see an animal die, my tear ducts turn on. I they just turn on, and I'm like, oh shit, is some water going to come out of here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm observing this. The part about what I say, how do you not get caught up in it, is they want us to talk about something that's imaginary, and when we talk about it, we're making it real when there is no Bigfoot.
Right.
There is.
That's right. That's right.
I would rather study the impact of mountain lions on the deer population and the ability to have cattle on this hill so we can feed society than talk about whether Bigfoot has hair or fur.
So,
and they're not even contributing to society when they fall down that rabbit hole so far, because we need cows to be raised on this land, not to be talking about whether Bigfoot is a mammal or a fucking reptile. Like, or does he give live birth or does he lay eggs? Like, what the fuck is going on? I don't even know.
That's right.
They need help. They need help. They don't need us to participate. People I love are participating in their delusion. It's like taking someone who's anorexic and then giving them weight gastric bypass. Yeah. So they can even be skinnier. What? Yep. They're anorexic. Yeah. Why did we give them? They need to. We're accommodating their delusion. Why are we doing this? And as a society, why are we accommodating our sick people? Why aren't we helping them?
That's it. I agree 100%. And that's where I go with when I'm talking to parents around, especially these last couple of years, right? I started hosting meetings at some of my schools and just trying to help. Even we'd have an auditorium full of parents who none of whom went to any of my campuses. They were just trying to figure out what to do with their own kids. And it was
what state? When did this happen?
Oh, this is in California.
That sounds amazing. If you're ever going to do that again somewhere, tell me. I want to post that on my shitty Instagram account. Parents need to get access to you when you do that. So you gathered a group of parents who are like, oh shit, what should I do with my kids?
100%. We had a whole auditorium. Did it multiple times. Auditoriums full of parents going, what do I do? And what I was hoping to get across to them was like, look, I'm not trying to sell. And half the campuses that we had that they would have access to were full anyway. So it's not like I had anything to sell them. I couldn't sell them. I didn't have any desire for that. It was my whole goal of it was to try to point out to them, they were taking their time and energy to fight, a school board or a school administrator. They were fighting a game that they, first of all, was expending energy to people who had no power to actually change anything, who weren't going to change anything. And then they were yelling about, my kid shouldn't have to wear a mask, and then sending little Johnny out the door every day with his mask on, making sure that he's got it. So I'm just trying to get them from a just purely humanity standpoint is going, look, you can't yell at the delusion while participating in the delusion. It's exactly what you were saying. Like you're participating in it. You're saying you don't like it, and you're taking your time and energy to argue about it while participating in it. And oh, by the way, you're spending all your time right here on some stuff that's never going to change. That's just this weird alternative reality that some people are trying to suck you into anyways.
Yeah.
You do understand you can actually take that same amount of energy, put it over here where you're pouring into your young person. You're providing other options for the young person. You're not participating in a mass delusion. You're not having to take energy to fight against anybody. You're taking all your energy to pour in, love into your young person. You've got the same amount of time and energy that you can just go boop and shift it right over here, not have to live hypocritically. So let's go over here. Let's turn our eyes this direction, but again, that's a religious hold, right?
Let me ask you this. What, maybe this metaphor is not appropriate, but there's weeds in my garden. There's sometimes I plant stuff that's my kids and I, we have a vegetable garden, and there's like the radishes. They're low on the ground, right? And if weeds come, you got to pull them out, or else they'll bury the radishes.
Yeah.
On one hand, I hear you. I should spend my time. I don't spend as much time killing gophers as I do. I make sure I plant at least one new avocado tree every year. Sure. Because I know every 2 years they're going to kill one.
Yeah.
So I don't spend. So I hear you in one respect of yes.
I understand.
I mean, you're saying the wisdom shit. You're saying the smart shit. It
I
even pains me to fight with you on this. But do we have to weed any of these other guys out? Like, do we have to?
Yeah, no, and I actually appreciate that clarification. So I
Like these people who think there's people who think Roe versus Wade. There's people who think that the Supreme Court outlawed abortion.
yeah.
I bet you it's more than 50%, Matt.
Oh, I agree with you.
Every other country around us is like, I can't believe the United States outlawed abortion. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That nothing of the sort just happened.
Yeah, they just handed it back.
They just took power away from the federal government. We should all be excited.
100%.
Even if you're pro-choice and you want to kill babies all day long, you should be so fucking happy because now you're free to do it. The federal government, when you allow the federal government to say you're pro-choice, you're also allowing them to say you're pro-life. That would have been really fucked up. You know what? I wish they would fucking do that just to show all these motherfuckers on the other side hey, you were confused. You know what we're going to do? We're actually going to make abortion illegal on the entire. I mean, they should be so happy the federal government can't get involved.
People don't think you just go.
We're living with morons, dude.
100%.
Sorry, honey. Sorry, Haley. Got fucked. I can't even make it through one show without calling someone a moron. Sorry, babe.
So it goes to kind of the point. So using that metaphor of the garden, if you got weeds,
yeah,
I'm looking at this. I look at schooling, and the mass religious system of schooling that we have built up over these last 100 years. It is no longer weeds. It is this jungle that is self-perpetuating. I've got some of this stuff that grows on my ranch that I go off and cut. Thank God I can actually use it to feed animals because I go cut it and throw it and give it to the goats or give it to the rabbits or give it to whatever. And that stuff the next day, it's just like I can't stop it. I look at schooling it is something that you won't be able to stop that train. You're not going to be able to whack enough moles to make this whole thing stop. It's just not going to happen, partially because it has done such a good job of its religion. We do now have, 50% of the people who, again, morons don't think, can't think, won't think, whatever that is. It's not going away. There's so much money. There's so much politics. There's so much power here. I spoke to a group called Project Lead the Way. I like them a lot. It's an organization that goes in, they build after school programs that are project based. And so, which is what, hey, by the way, a lot of your school education should be anyways, and is not, but they are at least bringing it to public schools, and they're doing so a lot of times after the fact, or they're integrating. So I went and did a keynote presentation for them, about 2,500 educators teachers from around the country, and got to speak to them. And then they had me go speak to a group of I did an hour keynote there, and there was an hour with a bunch of young heroes that they had brought from different schools all over the country. It's like 100 or so of them that I got to hang out with for an hour. And then they had me hang out with 7 teachers and administrators from around the country who had gotten awards in various capacities from them. One of them was a principal from Oklahoma. And I remember her saying, look, I know where you stand on public school. I'm in the public school. I'm running public schools. I fully get it. I fully agree with you. I hate all the bureaucracy. I hate what I'm told to do versus what the kids actually need. The system is soulless. The system is not for kids. I get that, but I can't stop fighting back, even though I'm not making any kind of dent, even though I'm not making any kind of difference. Why do we not just fight back? Why are you not more active fighting back there and you're trying to build something different? How do I change what's there? And I said, if you figure out how to change what's there, let me know, because we could go change things like the Vatican too, right? How do you change the Vatican?
Damn.
How do you change that? You're not going to go on, and a group of parents aren't going to go yell at a bunch of priests and take out some of those. And then all of a sudden the Vatican's going to shut down and change.
Right.
Too much time, power, money, politics. There's too much there.
Right.
We're not going to whack enough moles, period. Schooling is the same thing at this point. I'm not going to whack enough moles in my lifetime to make a dent here. So if I grow something else over here, to me, that is a far more net positive here than if I try to bury a couple moles over here.
And you're luring away their people. You're actually doing You're actually taking fruitless mulberry trees and grafting them so that now they produce fruit.
Yes, that's exactly it. And unfortunately, the downside of it is that there are some young heroes who will never ever be able to escape that system, and I fully understand that. So we've got to do everything we can on this side to make it more, make it more accessible to other people. Yes, that is part of that charge. I understand that does continue to help perpetuate that split. I know it does. And we can do
That's what Greg Glassman said, by the way, about CrossFit. He says, I have no faith, no belief, no desire, no concern of helping all of humanity. I only have the desire to provide people lifeboats who want to get on as the sick economy just fucking sucks the life out of civilization.
Bingo. It's exactly what exactly what we say. As I always say, look, man, we are built.
I'm not trying to convert anyone. Just like you said, I'm not trying to convert anyone, but if you want to get on this lifeboat over here, you can. It's just jump on. Yeah.
We're building an ark, and I'm going to invite you on the ark. I promise you the flood is freaking coming. And a lot of people are going to drown.
Well, we're in it. It's the trip. Such a trip.
100% we're in it. Yep. So
it is kind of fun. If I'm going to ask two groups of people to really be patient as this thing unfolds. If you don't have kids and you are the elderly, I'm going to have to ask the most of you, because there's something that you just don't have to deal with that we have to deal with that's really important. That's really, really important. I wish I could be more clear with this. As the podcasts go on, I'll develop more and more. I felt a ton of ideas develop being in the presence of Matt today. But those of us who have kids, and something's there's a ton of really good pressure on us right now. And if you don't have, because I just imagine if I was 19 years old right now, the 19-year-old or 25-year-old hippie that I would be so excited about the Armageddon that we're in. I'd be like, this is fucking dope. Yeah. And if I was 80 years old and I was scared, I probably wouldn't be able to contribute what I need to contribute. So those two groups of people, please know that that eventually those of you who are in your 20s, you are going to have kids and your whole shit's going to be flipped upside down. So just be patient. Everyone try to take a deep breath who's not on the parent train. It's not that we're better or worse than you. We just have another obligation to humanity right now. And we're going to do and we're going to do it. We're going to, one way or another, we're going to accomplish it. We're going to be successful at it, and we're going to do it.
True story, man. For those 19-year-olds, the world thinks very little of you or expects very little of you. Because of culturally where we've gone. So they expect you to just be taking years off of your life. They expect you to be distracted. They expect you to be sad. Yep. They expect you to be ineffective. They expect you to be non-resilient. They expect you to be all these things. And you have every ability to do the exact opposite. And because you're doing, it's like compound interest, investing early, right? Invest in yourself early now, and you will separate yourself so freaking far away from your peers. Like, I mean, it's never been an easier time for a young person to be great if you choose to do so.
That's true. That's so true. My final question, dang, 3 hours. I'm so happy we made it. You say in the podcast with Nick from BPN, when people meet my kids, they're completely blown away, and they can't even believe it. Yep. And I experience that every day. Going out with my kids is like going out with famous people. It's fucking nuts. Everyone, like, no matter where we are or what we're doing, just the way they carry themselves, people will just stop us. Yes, sir. It is fucking nuts. And they'll say, you have the most beautiful, talented 3 little girls I've ever seen. And I say, thank you. And of course, they're 3 little boys. And how do you... If you could give to talking to Nick, if Nick wants to have one of those kids that when you go outside, everyone realizes that there's like, holy shit, we're in the presence of like superstardom. What would, first of all, as a parent, there's nothing better. That's like what it is. It is so fucking fun. Like even if you go to the mall with them, people are staring at them just the way because kids don't have to, like you said, if you just say hi to someone and smile and make eye contact, people think you're the most amazing kid ever. I mean, the bar's set so fucking low right now.
So low. And that's, I mean, I want to be
Go
clear
ahead.
on that too. It's
Yeah.
like, that's part of the reason that people are so astounded by your boys, by my, 2 girls and a boy, is the bar's been set so low. The expectation has been set so low that just the fact that they will do adult level things, meaning looking in the eye, shaking hands, introducing, having a conversation, like uh, somebody at the grocery store the other day says, hey, how you doing over there? And my 6-year-old boy didn't like shy away. He said, I'm doing very fine. Thank you. How are you doing? And asked like how, had an adult response to that. And the guy's like, whoa. And he couldn't even respond back. And so my son's standing there going, I asked you how you were doing. And this guy's just chuckling and whatever, right? Because he just doesn't expect it. The bar's so low, dude. That's the thing. Sorry.
I went to the I was at the gas station supermarkets, like it's a gas station but sells like the fruits and vegetables and shit, and I go there with my sons and we're in line, and there's a guy behind me, I guess, with only one item, and my oldest son Avi, who's 7, goes, hey, do we want to, and I have a whole basket full of shit, and he goes, hey, do we want to let that guy behind us go first? And I look behind and I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like, well, tell him. I'm like, no, you fucking tell him. And he goes, do you want to go first? And the guy looks at me, and I'm like, and he learned that from me. Bingo. Right? Just like, Bingo. Like he saw a dude with one item and just knows like, hey, that's not cool. We got 40 items. We're not in a fucking hurry. Right. Like, let this cat go in front of us. I'm going to use a credit card. This dude's probably going to throw $5 on and be out. How would you tell, what would you tell parents to do to get them on the path to make these kids that you not only can take everywhere, that you want to take everywhere? Like if someone invites me to a wedding, they're like, no kids. I'm like, yes, I'm not going to your fucking wedding.
Yeah, totally. What I told Nick too, I actually sent him a message the other day. I saw that they had the baby, and I sent him a video message, man. And it's just like, you're a different human being. Now, what I said on the podcast, I'll go back just a little bit. What I said on the podcast was, the people ask me, the question I get most often is how do you discipline them? Because when they see them, they assume it is some sort of disciplinary action in the way they define that word. And I just try to shift their mindset around discipline. And I said, why I actually don't discipline my kids. I have just shown them how to be a disciplined human being. And that's the difference, right? Is because most adults aren't even disciplined human beings. So when you see another disciplined human, you're like, okay, well, that person's different. When that disciplined human is 8, you're like, what the fuck? Like it blows your mind. And so we've created those disciplined habits in them. So what I told Nick was, it's consistency like anything else. There's no magic pill. Consistency is the key to all of it, right? You genuinely need to, you're consistent about everything you guys do as a family. You're consistent about praising them inspirationally. You're consistent about correcting them calmly if there is a need for correction. You're consistent about taking them out. It goes back to the whole words to thoughts to beliefs to actions to habits to character. It's that whole train, and you don't ever miss a beat. You don't want to miss your workout. Great. You don't want to miss staying consistent on eating the right things and not putting the garbage. It's the same thing with raising the young heroes. You're consistent about who you are as a family. You're consistent about leading by example. And what I told Nick was, if you're going to be the guy that's leading by example, first and foremost, I want you to map out standard remains perfection. So map out, what does the perfect dad do? How does he pour into his family? How does he talk to them? How does he talk to his wife? How does he talk about money? How does he talk about fitness? How does he talk about finances? How does he look at philanthropy and giving back? How does he talk about faith? What does this guy do? Who is this perfect dad, perfect husband? How does he interact? And then I want you to talk about who the enemy is too, man. What is the guy that is just out to ruin a family. Like, what does he do? What does he look like? What does he say? What kind of attitude does he have? I said, I want you to keep those two guys. And because your standard is always to remain perfection here, it's to never let the enemy, creep in, and then you build that consistency for your family. You do that day one from the time that little girl came out. She's beautiful. I think Charlie Grace is her name. And so, man, she's
You did
perfect.
say that to him. You said from day one. That's so important.
Day one, man. Day one. She is perfect. She's perfect. She's perfect health. She's perfect genius. She's a perfect view of the world. She's a perfect understanding of, and yes, no, she doesn't have, well, their frontal lobes aren't developed until they're 25. Yeah, I get it. I understand that. But as far as like her natural inclination around so many things is so spot on until we screw it up. So let's take a moment and just be consistent around the values that we want. Let's be intentional about our words, intentional about what we're teaching her to believe about the world, intentional about the actions that we are taking as a family that she's seeing us take, intentional about the habits that we have as a family. What are our non-negotiables? You do all that, they're going to have that kind of character built in. And then honestly, man, it just gets freaking easy. It gets fun because we don't negotiate on that. They're holding us accountable now too. Like, if I violate one of these rules, they'll call me on my bullshit and just go, hey, man, this is one of those rules. And they'll do it respectfully. And I'll just go, yeah, you're right. Thanks, man. It's just like you. It's like you seeing me on something and calling me up and just going, hey, man, I saw you on that interview and this is what you said. And I don't think that's cool, man. I'd go, man, Sevan, thank you, bro. Like, thank you. Like, I needed that. Thank you very much. Right. My kids can do that same thing because they have that, the ability to do so. It's consistency, man. Day one.
You said in this podcast, I don't know if it's this one or another one or on your Instagram, you said manners are non-negotiable. It's something like I'm so hardcore on.
Yep.
Like if someone gave my kids something and they didn't look them in the eye and said thank you, I would take it from them and give it back to the person.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Like there would never be like, he's just shy. I would never make an excuse for my kid's weakness. I'd be like, dude, to get that, you have to say thank you.
Yeah.
You have to say please.
Totally. It's just and you build that habit for them.
Yeah, it's not an option.
It's not an option.
They didn't say please or sorry or thank you to me. I don't. What the fuck what they do have anything to do with our rules? No, these are our rules. We live by this shit. And I do it just to make their life better later on, right? I know that they're going to hold the door open for the right guy who's going to offer them the job to mow the lawn that's going to get them the money to buy the bike. Like, I know how life works.
That's right. That's exactly it. Yeah. Doing the right. That's it.
He's going to let you keep his daughter out to 12 because you said please and thank you. And because you stood up at the dinner table when the mom walked in. I mean, it's not. And I want that. And I want that for my son. Hey, you can come in. You want to come in? Come in.
That's right.
What's up? I've been here 3 hours.
You got one right here?
Yeah. You want to say hi to my buddy, Matt. Ooh, look at your hair. Look at your hair.
Yes. Hey, sir. How are you? Oh, yes.
He can't hear you.
He's looking like a handsome man.
Matt, thank you so much, buddy. 3
Man,
hours
thank you.
of just love with you. People are always asking me to do kids parenting shows, and I think we got a little bit of that in today.
That's awesome, man. Well, and I want to have you on talk with the young guys of Apogee. I'd love for you to see these young guys and how amazing they are, and always a lot of wisdom coming from you, man. I'm very grateful to have you as a friend and a voice out there, man, for sure.
Yeah. Anything I can ever do to help or participate in what you're doing, let me know.
I appreciate that, brother. Right back at you, man. I'm here.
All right, dude. Have a great time. I know your time is very valuable. And you got the ranch, the business, and the kids, and so I just want you to know I don't take any of this for granted. I love you to death. Thank you. Thanks for fighting side by side with us all, leading the way.
Let me know when you come out to NC, man. We're gonna be working on getting the cabin next door, man. I'd love to have you guys come hang out, come visit.
Awesome.
Be fun. All right, buddy.
Peace. Bye-bye.
See you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Are we going to what is it called again?
I want to go to the skate park.
No, I want to go to the Sonic so we can go to her house and get smooth.
What? No, I want to go to skate. We can do both. We can get smoothie and go to skate park. Guys, thank you. That is a tremendous human being right there. Matt Beaudreau. Man, what a great dude. Tomorrow we have, do we have 2 shows tomorrow? I know tomorrow evening I have a show with Brian and, oh, I only have 1 show scheduled tomorrow. Oh, it's at 7 a.m. Wow. Okay. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. I thought it was in the evening. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. I have the show with Brian Friend and Mr. James Hobart about the team competition. And then on the 20th, I have I think it's gonna be a live call-in show, but one of my guests for like 30 minutes is gonna be a guy named Idris. And he used his jiu-jitsu to stop a guy who broke into a liquor store. So I'm curious to hear about that. And then he filmed it on his Facebook and the cops came up. It was quite the shenanigans. Oh, I knew I stayed on long enough for a reason. Look, we got $5 to buy your smoothie. And somewhere in there I need to do a live call-in show. It also looks like, am I looking at this right? Oh yeah. And then on Thursday we have Dale Saran back on. He's the former general counsel of CrossFit HQ, amongst many other things. Then on Friday the 22nd, it looks like I don't have anybody. I got to start scheduling people. Matt Torres, Haley Adams, Cara Saunders, James Sprague, Dallin Pepper. Got a bunch of people. Okay.